basal cell. So
Oh no! Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it went in pretty deep. So I'm being the nurse today also. So I got full duty on.
Well, best wishes for a quick recovery to her.
Yeah, she's quite the trooper. So and besides that, she's a retired nurse, so she knew what she was getting into.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I think she'll be fine.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
All right, it looks like it's 10 o'clock. And we'll just jump in. So good morning. My name is Holly Herrera, and I'm the board administrator for today's meeting, August 1st, 2024. If you are logged into Teams in person, please mute your laptops to prevent feedback and echo. And this meeting is being recorded. Chair Stevens, we are ready to begin.
Hey, thank you, Holly. I'll call this meeting to order and ask that you conduct roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Stevens. So Sarah Lucas.
Present.
Bill Gropp.
Here.
Brian Prang.
Present.
Catherine Stevens.
Present.
And Jeff Pritchard is excused, has an excused absence. Chair Stevens, do you approve?
Yes, I do. And I'll just note that he is on fire duty. So of course we accept salaries.
Thank you. Steve Nagy. And I know he's planning on attending remote, so I'm going to check in here to see if he's logged in. Let me go back to, I don't see him logging in yet, so he may be a little late. And then Jim Knight.
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much. And roll call is complete. We can go ahead and introduce staff around the board.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want to we'll do in the room first, I guess, and then we'll do online.
Okay, sounds good.
Introduce yourselves.
Sure. So Andrea Abrahamson, I work in the planning division of Department of Aviation as policy and program coordinator.
Bonnie Beach, State Airports Manager.
And I'm Kristen Forrest. I'm the finance manager.
Army Bunkel, Planning and Programs Coordinator.
Hi, I'm Ian Vasey. I'm the Development Services Director with the City of Klamath Falls, which oversees the airport here.
Thank you for joining us and thank you for hosting us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And then Holly, do you want to call on folks online?
I do want to mention Steve Nagy is he's arrived. Morning, Steve.
Good.
And I just want to say that we are at quorum.
All right.
My name is Holly Herrera, and I'm the board administrator. And any other folks online that want to introduce themselves?
Kevin Olson, Airport Leasing and Contract Specialist.
Michelle Bradley, Port of Tillamook Bay, Tillamook Airport.
Alex Thomas,
Brendan.
Planning and Programs Manager, Oregon Department of Aviation.
Go ahead, Brendan.
Brandon Pike, Aviation Planner with the Department of Aviation.
Okay, let's see. Any other staff members online taking a look? No, that's it. And for me, Kenji Sugihara, Director.
Okay.
Thank you, Kenji.
Very good. Okay, so for guests in the room or online, if you would like to make public comment today, please, if you're in the room, use the sign-in sheet. If you are online, please, Holly, do you want just a message to you if they want to make a public comment?
Just please use the raise hand function or send a message in the chat if you are online. Do we have anybody in the room that signed up? Okay.
No, we don't have anyone that signed up.
Okay, thank you, Kristen.
So Holly, we'll go to the consent agenda and then we'll come back to public comment just so people have time to raise their hands.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the action item, approve the consent agenda. which is approval of the board meeting minutes for June 6th, 2024, the board meeting July 11th, 2024, the board meeting for Connect Oregon Modal Review Committee. And then let's see. So I just need a motion to approve the prior board meeting minutes and work session meetings for June 6th and July 11th.
I move to approve as presented. Bill?
I'll second.
Right. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. So now, Holly, we'll go back to public comment if there are anybody online who wants to make a public comment.
All right, thank you, Chair Stevens. So each speaker, please state your name, your city of residence, and or affiliation for the record. We do have a written comment, and it will be acknowledged for the record. The purpose of this portion of the meeting is for us to listen to the community feedback. The board and staff will not be making direct comments or answering questions during this time. Your concerns will be taken into consideration as we deliberate on matters. If you have specific inquiries, we encourage you to reach out to us directly via email at mail.odav.oregon.gov. Contact information can be found on our website, and we will do our best to provide a response. So it looks like nobody in the room, and we are going to go ahead and check our online, and then we will do our written comments that we received via email. Let's go ahead and check in here. George, looks like George Bewley, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Just really wanted to reach out and thank the ODAV folks, particularly those that are involved with Aurora State Airport. They recently completed taxiway remarking project. Looks very pristine now. There's no more obscured markings, and I really think that'll help reduce surface events occurring there at the airport. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And okay, let's see if we have anybody else online who would like to make a public comment. Please raise your hand or put a message in the chat box, please. I don't see anybody. We did receive a written comment here. Let me pull it up. Jared Hillock of Enterprise Oregon. He sent a message. I'm Jared Hillock and live in Enterprise, Oregon, and I am co-owner of Enterprise Electric and Hillcock Properties. Active pilot and owner of 2 planes. This letter is to bring to light the need for additional hangar space at Joseph State Airport and Wallowa County in general. Wallowa County is in need of additional hangar space. It is my understanding that at Joseph State Airport, there are only a couple of lease lots undeveloped in the current footprint of the airport, and those lots are possibly already spoken for, leaving no additional space for new hangars. There are additional hangar spaces planned for the master plan, but I do not know when there might be funding available for that expansion. Neighborhooding Enterprise Municipal Airport is out of hangar space as well. Hillcock Properties currently owns 10 acres adjacent to the Joseph State Airport directly to the east of the runway. We recently submitted a thorough fence application to the Department of Aviation on this land. This ground is a perfect fit for additional hangar space as it currently zoned industrial, and hangars would be an outright use. As this land is industrial land, you cannot build residential homes on this land, further adding to the safety of the property. Access to the property can be made by simply extending a current intersection to the east of the runway to our property. I am in need of a hangar, and I have been contacted by 3 pilots in need of land to build a hangar. One of which is the current and only APIA shop in Wallowa County. He is currently in a rented hangar and would like to get a hangar of his own to secure his business from the possibility of losing his shop space. Increased hangars would result in increased activity and fuel sales for Joseph State Airport as well. I have attached a copy of Joseph State Airport layout depicting our property and potential access location. Thank you for your time and consideration. Jared M. Hillcock, Enterprise Electric.
Okay,
And then
thank
I
you,
do
Holly.
see, you're welcome, and I do see that Ted Millar, we would like to invite the ODAV board to have one of the next ODAV meetings at the Aurora Airport. Thank you, Ted Millar. And is there anybody else who has any public testimony today? Please raise your hand. Okay, it looks like we have come to the end of public testimony. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Holly. Next up on the agenda is a welcome to Klamath Falls. Linda just popped her head and said she was got something she's working on, so I'm going to just move that down on the agenda for when Linda's available. So we will move on to the director's update at this point, and Kenji.
Cool. Stand by while I bring up my presentation. Share PowerPoint. Okay. Leave this open. Okay. Anything popping up? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So first, to start out, before I get onto my presentation, Steve, I went through the airport. I saw the new terminal, and it's starting to look really good. I didn't see it from the inside, but I saw it from the outside, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it in person very shortly. The other thing that I want to note, I want to give a big get well soon to Warren from the Seattle ADO. Unfortunately, it looks like he suffered a medical incident, and I just want to make sure that we all are aware of that, and we can send him a note of get well soon. So I've talked with Grady Stone on the flight over, and he mentioned that as well. That was quite recent. I think that was this past weekend. So if you're in the community and you interact with Warren, please reach out to his staff or folks up there to give your well wishes. So let's see, is it clicking? Okay, come on. No. Next slide. Uh-oh. Okay, that's not working. Okay, share screen. I'm going to do that instead. Start broadcast. Well, where there's a will, there's a way. So stand by. Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go. That works. So first off, as I mentioned, Sarah and the entire actually board, my apologies. I heard from the last board meeting about the snafu with the U.S. insurance. So I want to lead off by saying that was totally my fault. I thought I had socialized it to you, and I own that. That's my bad, and I promise not to do it again. And if I do it again, slap me on the hand or do something. I'll wear a pink shark suit if, to the next board meeting if that happens to appease you. But definitely.
Actually, I think we'd like to see that now, Kenji, for the pink tracksuit.
Oh, wait. Alex, if you want to text Catherine the photo of me in a pink shark suit, you're more than welcome to do that.
All right, I'll get on it.
For board members, if you're curious about it, I'll follow up with you later on that. So yeah, I just want to put that out there for folks. I apologize for that. That's totally my fault. Not on staff or anything. That's all on me. So just want to do that first. But to talk about the U.S. insurance requirement, to give you a little bit more detail, because I had a good conversation with Catherine and said, okay, this is what's going on. So the rationale behind this is really that we can't use AIP funds for drone and AAM sort of infrastructure yet. There are some electrification that came out in the latest reauthorization, but a lot of the digital infrastructure we're talking about can't come from AIP funds, and they can't be funded by fuel taxes, right? Because most of it's on airport. So we're thinking, hey, since we're going to be heading down this road, supporting drones and advanced air mobility, how are we going to pay for this infrastructure? So I thought to myself, let's look at other states. What succeeded and what's not? Well, North Carolina, Washington, they tried registration. It didn't work out so well. North Carolina even tried to require some testing. That didn't work out. And I thought to myself, coming from the 107 background, flying drones for a living, what does every commercial drone operator have or really should have, right? It's aviation liability insurance. All businesses out there have liability insurance, right? Or they should. Good companies should. So I started socializing that, and feel free to interrupt if you have any questions, because this is just an explanation for folks. But uh, I said I reached out to a lot of the stakeholders, including AVSI National and a lot of drone folks, as well as Global Insurance. And I mentioned I'm thinking of this idea about potentially requiring commercial liability or aviation liability insurance for all commercial ops. Like, that's not a bad idea. Uh, there's a sub rationale to this as well, because to have if you have commercial policy, for it to pay out, you have to have your Part 107. And that's one of the biggest bugaboos that a lot of commercial pilots or Part 107 pilots have talked to me about is really these people who are operating under the radar without their 107 and undercutting a lot of folks. So they're like, oh, this is a great idea because it enforces compliance and gets people to realize that there's a regulatory structure. It also gets people to comply with the airspace requirements too. So not only do you get the 107, but you have to have an understanding of how airspace works as part of your training or your course of study. And then that also makes it safer for like the Class Delta and Class Charlie airports, because you have to have an understanding of LANCE and how that works, which is low altitude and notification capability. So that there's that. And then another question comes up, hey, how about public use airports? I don't remember if I put it in there, but that's one of the details that needs to be worked out. But public use UAS, my plan is to have them exempted, because there's no reason to require it for them. They usually have a state policy. And then the income piece is, okay, so how do we structure this? And I talked to Global Insurance about this. Can we put a surcharge on policies? It's like, yeah, that happens all across the US. It's commonplace. It's not a big deal. It can happen. And we arrived at the 5%, looking at the what would be reasonable, right? So coming from my sort of perspective, having been a pilot, having had a massive fleet, just to give you an example, I was, well, not a massive fleet compared to some entities, but from what I was able to insure 10 UAS under a blanket policy for $5 million for around six grand, right? So 6 grand would be around $300 a year. That's the cost to do business. The primary thing though is whenever you impose a fee, right, you need a return on investment. Nobody wants to be charged money for something that they don't see in return, right? So that's why I linked it to the idea of the digital infrastructure, or that can help support UAS operations. Think about weather. Think about being able to utilize ADSB in resources, especially when flying, right? That's a benefit to 107 operators and operators in general. And I actually asked this question at the symposium. I was talking to the waiver and exemption office and said, hey, if we were to provide digital information services, would that be an acceptable mitigation for when people apply for their waivers and exemptions? They're like, yeah, that definitely would be. So there's a return on investment there. And then you also take the next step. What policies would be covered, right? Because there's policies issued all across different states. I go, okay, the way we do this is that it's for policies that are Oregon based, right? That originated in Oregon. That makes sense. So if people from out of state, they come in, they already have insurance, they're not subject to this requirement. And then I was asked by the legislator, hey, how are you going to enforce this, right? So I said, one of the things that we need to do is need to make sure we start reaching out to the trade groups in Oregon, because there's a lot of real estate folks, there's a lot of construction folks that really should have their 107. And if they do, that's great. But if they're not compliant and they're flying drones, that puts their license at risk. That's a fairly heavy risk to take, right? So there's a lot of outreach that can be done. And there's a lot of compliance that will be worked out through rulemaking, where we say, hey, okay, it's not only the person who is flying or actually who has the UAS that's at risk, but it also potentially could impact the person hiring the individual as well. Because what should be happening, what happens in where I was coming from, the world that I lived in, we were always asked for certificates of insurance in Part 107, copies of our Part 107, and copies of permits. It's going to force, or actually encourage, the end users or the consumers of the product to do their due diligence with checking out people's credentials before hiring people to do the job. So I think from start to finish, it's a very interesting idea. AVSI National said, oh, this is very interesting. Keep us informed on how this works, because this could be sort of a great way to help fund UAS infrastructure. And it gives a good, well, there's this perception that UAS folks don't pay into the system. This also gives them a way to pay into the system. So overall, I think it's a great way that to promote safe flying, compliance with regulations, a way to fund infrastructure, and a way that's getting support from the stakeholders that surround this idea. So any questions on that before I move on?
Sarah Lucas has a question.
Yeah. Hey, Kenji, I just wanted to thank you for that in-depth rationale and background information on all of the legwork that you had been doing ahead of time. I think for me, it was just a lack of understanding what had been done up until the point that it was brought to the board. So I do appreciate it. And I very much appreciate your enthusiasm and your ability to step back and look at a problem and try to come up with a solution. So thank you for that. And I appreciate this overview.
The other thing I wanted to do with this digital infrastructure too, just as an aside too, is once you start installing this is going to enable sort of the beyond visual line of sight firefighting routes that I've been talking about to help support your folks as well in the firefighting industry, in the firefighting sphere as well. And the other piece that's going to be super helpful as well is this will directly impact drones as a first responder. So the use of drones to respond to emergencies in cities, in counties. And I've already been approached by law enforcement in Oregon. Hey, can we start talking about infrastructure? Can you extend some of your projects potentially out toward where we are to support our operations? So there's a lot of enthusiasm for this, and this might be a way to just assist in that process.
So Kenji, let me ask you, so we did move this forward as a board last time. So can you just remind us of, this is going then to the legislature, correct?
Correct. It'll go to the legislature. And I saw that Michelle was online too. So I hope this sort of helped to frame this out a little bit more as well. Yeah, but yes, that's correct. And the way I designed the statute, then we'd have to go through rulemaking for a bunch of the aspects to sort of fill it out as well.
And then the way it's structured, is there a way to adjust that surcharge over time so that we're not having to constantly go back to the legislature to adjust it?
We can do that. Yeah. Michelle, are you online and are you willing to say whether we can make that adjustment at this point, or is it too far down the line? Michelle, are you there?
Are you talking to me?
Michelle Lisper.
Oh, okay. I was like,
sorry.
No, that's okay. I just panicked. Like, what did I forget to
Like,
do?
what? No. Guess not, but yeah, we'll oh, Michelle Lisper?
Yeah, I don't think she's on, Kenji. I would just encourage you to put
Yes.
some, if it's possible, to put a mechanism in there to have periodic increases that make sense, just so we're not constantly having to go back and reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
Catherine, you are preaching to the choir. Oh my goodness. So absolutely. So that's my debrief on that. But let's see. The other thing I really want to talk to you about was the AAM Multi-State Collaborative. And people at the FAA Symposium had, were there any other questions on the UAS insurance?
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. The Multi-State Collaborative, and it's actually been the talk of the FAA Symposium as well. So there's a lot of buzz about it. We had a meeting in the Dalles a couple of weeks ago, and huge shout out to both Alex, who did a lot of the logistics on it, and then also David from the state of Washington, WashDOT Aviation, who also put in a lot of work as well. And of course, Anne, we can't forget Anne. A big thank you to her for co-hosting it with us. And then it was really exciting because not only did Business Oregon get involved, but the Washington Department of Commerce also got involved. So what is it? What is the Multi-State Collaborative? Right now, it is 28 states that have gotten together to really come out with a number of consensus papers talking about how we come up with some best practices and key considerations for statutory construction to enable advanced air mobility. What are some of the policies that we can talk about in terms of land use regulations that can be sort of uniform across states? Because when you talk about this new type of technology, it's not limited to one state. It doesn't end at the border, so it crosses borders. So how do we ensure it makes it easier for OEMs? So you think about the Jobies, the Archers, the Whisks, these are advanced air mobility companies. How do we make it easier for them to conduct business? Because one of the key considerations of advanced air mobility is to keep costs low to make aviation accessible for all people, right? So that's a key consideration. How do we talk to communities? And community is not only just the general public, but how we talk to aviation communities. How do we talk to airports? How do we talk to current aviators? How do we talk to the cities, counties, the local officials to really prepare for them for what's coming? Because it is coming, and unless there's this dialogue going on, people will be unprepared, and nobody likes surprises. So it's about that education piece and helping sort of ease the way or create the pathway for advanced air mobility in all the states. As I noted, 18 states represented in person, 28 states total are part of it, and we had 45 attendees. And Catherine, you'll get a kick out of this. Greg Pecoraro, he comes up to me at the meeting. Why in the world did you have this meeting all the way out in this really weird location where I have to drive really far? Because he flew into Eugene. And then he ran into the gorge, and he's like,
Yep.
"Oh, that's why." So he loved it. Everybody loved it, and they said it was their most favorite multi-state collaborative so far.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
And then, of course, I said, all right, Greg, here's some suggestions for wineries you can visit along the way and on the way back. And you know, he's a wine lover, so he's over the moon.
That's great.
So that was great. But the companies that were involved were specifically chosen. So we had an industry sort of day where we took in feedback. What are some of the key considerations? So Zipline, Joby, Whisk, Archer, Beta, and we even had Sage Tech locally. And they provided some very interesting feedback. And this is for folks at the airports. It's really interesting because one of the big issues that we face is as we move toward electrification, how are we going to pay for the infrastructure? How are we going to pay for the maintenance, right? Especially when a lot of this is paid for by fuel taxes. And we asked them straight up. I pointedly asked, what would you be willing to put money into the system? And they're like, yes, absolutely. We thought it was going to be very contentious, but they're like, we're willing to put money into the system as long as it's not excessive, because at least the eVTOL companies were like, we're thinking about Uber prices, like an Uber Black price, right? If it doesn't double the price, as long as it's reasonable, and it's something you expect. You look on your Uber bill or whatever, you see surcharges. As long as it's not outlandish, they said they would be okay with it. And same with the delivery companies. And when we talk about this, we also have to realize the volume of operations that are going to be happening. So we have to take that into consideration eventually. So I think as part of the consensus papers, as part of the consensus papers, we'll also be talking about the economic sustainability of advanced mobility. And I'm really proud to say that we are one of the founding members of the Multi-State Collaborative. We've been getting noticed, and from the way it looks, we'll be presenting our findings at NISEA, which will be in September. Catherine, I'm bummed that you can't make it, but Steve, and you're also more than welcome to come out as well.
Thank you, Kenji.
Yes. And then conferences, I've been attending a couple. So folks who actually speak, you'll get this. I flew into Vancouver for one day and then flew back the next day. It was for the Pacific Northwest Economic Region Summit in Canada. So there's a lot of policymakers that go up, and it covers many different topics in terms of economic development in the region. You're looking at British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, all the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, you name it. But I was up there to talk about AAM. And what was really nice is I go into the conference, and I run into one of the representatives, and then I start my presentation. I'm like, hey, I think I know this person. And I'm like, I look closer. It's one of the co-chairs of the transportation committee. So I was like, oh yeah, this is a great opportunity to talk about what's coming down the pipe. Yeah, it's always one of those surprises. Hey, so I made sure to give a good shout out to Senator Gorsuch. So that was a great time. And then here at the FAA Symposium in Baltimore, I was actually invited by the FAA to talk about community engagement and some of the efforts that we're making in Oregon. And I was able to talk about how we reached out to the Association of Oregon Planners and really started conversations with the League of Oregon Cities as well as AOC. So just describing what the actions that we're taking as an agency to start spreading the word, talking about it amongst the board, visiting all the airports, starting to educate all the policymakers. And it was very well received because these are things that can happen all across the system. And one thing that was very interesting was, all right, the FAA came up and asked a question. So there's a representative from the FAA. I said, what can the FAA do to help? And I thought a moment and said, okay, here's what you can do. I told them, FAA needs to talk to DOT headquarters. DOT headquarters really needs to talk to the highways folks, right? Federal highways, and tell the state DOTs, hey, you need to make this a priority as part of your multimodal transportation network and start focusing in on it. Talk about aviation, not just advanced air mobility, but general aviation and jets as well. how they fit into a larger context. And it is a very important piece as things move forward, not only in terms of transportation, and we're not just talking about people, but we're talking about cargo, we're talking about resiliency. There's a lot of aspects. And they were like, okay, that makes a lot of sense for state DOTs, because we talked to our state DOT, we talked to a lot of folks in government. They're like, advanced air mobility, what's that? There's some misperceptions about what we do. And I think coming from not only aviation, but also coming from the headquarters at DOT, that's going to carry strong message. So that's one of the things that I talked about. The other thing that was really nice about this symposium is I had the opportunity to talk with not only continued conversations with NASA, some key people, but I also talked with some key people in the FAA about potentially bringing some programs. I can't talk about it right now yet because the talks are in the initial stage, but if things come to fruition, things could move move forward quite quickly in the state, and it'll definitely be some exciting times. So the updates. Well, anybody have any questions about the conferences that I've been to? Happy to talk about it.
Hey, but I just wanted to comment that great photos. Alex sent me over, and I put it on our Instagram. So feel free to check that out.
Check that out. And what is our Instagram account?
It's OR Aviation.
Oh, and you need to give me the password so I can get in, so I can start posting from all over the place. You know, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble, but I think we'll have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll send that over.
Cool. Oak Ridge still going on. EDA is in process. Connect Org is in process. Catherine, thank you so much for I know that you really hit it out of the park for us. So appreciate what you do for us. And then the other thing that's happening is the strategic planning process is going to be kicking off in September. So I think we have everything wrapped up. Kristen, am I correct in that all the contract stuff is done, and Alex, all the contract stuff is done?
Yes, that's correct.
Yay! Sarah, you must be happy. Yay! No, so finally, apologies it took so long, but we know how the process works in government sometimes. So with that, any questions, or did I just blab on too long, too fast, and do what I usually do?
Anybody have any questions? Holly, you'll have to help me out with online.
I don't see anybody raising their hand. Anybody have any questions online? It doesn't look like it. I think we're good to go. And
okay.
I just wanted to confirm as well, before we move on to our next section, I wanted to see if Linda Tepper wanted to do the Welcome to Klamath Falls presentation.
Oh, quick thing. Before I forget, Kelby from Klamath Falls is out here right now too, and that's the most exciting thing to see cities involved with what's coming down the pike too. So great job, Kelby. Giving you the thumbs up. Sorry, I had to just say that.
All right, great. Yes, and yes, Holly, I think we're gonna go back to Linda now for the Welcome to Klamath Falls.
Yeah, my apologies for not being here when the meeting kicked off. We're short staffed because Kelby is, as Kenji pointed out, taking advantage of the conference back there, but we're kind of trying to make sure to deal with some FAA grants and things like that. So I did want to just, and I apologize, we didn't get any presentation materials to you, but just real quickly, we're looking forward to providing a tour for those of you who want to tour the airport this afternoon. But the airport essentially was established way back in 1928 when the city of Klamath Falls voted the citizens to do a public bond sale. And it was used to purchase $150,000, purchase the first 300 acres of the airport. We're now up at about 1,200 acres. Our history with the military, if you're not familiar with the Klamath Falls, dates back practically to the start of the airport, because not long after it was established, the Navy used it for a naval airspace training area. The Air Force moved in, and we had a long presence in Klamath Falls with different missions. And then the Air National Guard took it over in the early 80s when the Air Force left. And the Air National Guard here continues to be our major tenant on the fields, a major operations contributor to the airport. They currently fly the F-15 as the only student or schoolhouse in the F-15. And they're in the process of transitioning to the F-35 over the next couple of years. So we're looking forward to that endeavor because it should bring another nice long stretch of their involvement in the community. So in relation to their F-35 mission that they're doing or preparing for it, we actually, you'll see one of these projects have entered into a unique arrangement with them where the city of Klamath Falls is actually serving as their contracting officer to get a number of projects done for them ahead of the F-35 transition. First one being the rehabilitation of their maintenance ramp, which is just south of this building. So a large $35+ million project that we're handling on their behalf. They're funding it. We're serving as their contracting officer to essentially expedite the process and make it get done a little sooner for them and make it available. Whole host of other capital projects, from hangar rehabilitations to brand new flight instruction buildings that are going up. So it should be a fairly busy time. And the benefit to the city is that the city is going to receive a 4% administrative fee on all those funds that we get. So that should help the city essentially fund the general fund, which the airport is a recipient of general funds to make us whole from what we lack to be able to generate on the airport. So in addition to the Air National Guard, our major tenants on the field would be the Forest Service Air Tanker Base. We have flight instruction with Pure Flight, which is a partnership with Klamath Community College, also based headquarters out of the Newburgh area. So they are doing gangbusters here since establishing their partnership with the Klamath Community College. We're seeing a lot of interest in flight instruction, so that's a big positive for us. We also have cargo, so UPS, FedEx. We have air ambulance, so MedTrans, Airlink provides services. And then, of course, we have a robust general aviation crowd, everything from those that just fly for fun to those that are doing it more on the commercial side of things to support some businesses that they've got. So some really good projects coming up. We've got our taxiway F rehabilitation that we're hoping to receive FAA funding for this summer to hopefully kick off. We have a core grant, so thanks to the state for helping us fund our local match for that. And that's also a project that we're expecting the Air National Guard to help fund for us as well. So a lot kind of going on in the next several years, including mark your calendars for next July, the 19th, that weekend. The Air National Guard will be doing Century Eagle, which is their large scale exercise. It will also involve a air show by the Thunderbirds. So 2 days of being able to watch the Thunderbirds do their performance here in Klamath Falls. So for those of you that love to see them perform, that would be a good one to mark your calendar and attend. So again, we hope to show you more of the things that we just talked about in the airport tour this afternoon. And if anyone has any just preliminary questions, I'd be happy to answer those. So, well, welcome to Klamath Falls if you haven't been here before. So
thank you, Linda. Appreciate it. And thank you for hosting us.
I do not see anybody. Oh, Kenji, go ahead.
Got a question. Are they the new F-15EXs?
No. Portland has the F-15EXs. Ours down here are the older models that are being retired by the Air Force. So these F-15s will gradually kind of disappear either to boneyards or to other units, other countries that are still utilizing them. So the F-35s will be essentially what replaces those.
That'll be an interesting, because I actually talked to a Boeing engineer on one of my flights about both the F-35 and the F-15EXs as well. And the technology that goes into there is just absolutely amazing. And when you start talking about the autonomous, the drones that will be flying along next to them on both the platforms, it's going to be even more amazing. So I'm so jealous that I don't get to see the F-35s, because the vertical takeoff and landing aspect of that is just phenomenal. Even though I know that the payload isn't as big, but it's still really cool. I wish I was there. I'm sorry I'm not there, but oh my goodness, at least I got to hang out with some of your folks from K Falls. So next time, I'll come down.
Right, thank you. Okay, and we will keep moving on the agenda. We'll get through Andrea's items and then maybe take a break after that. So the next item up is the core update, ASAP report to the legislature.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and Aviation Board. So I'm just going to give you a quick update on the core grant program. And then we have our request for approval of our annual ASAP legislative report. So of course, this is the exciting, actually, we'll start with the administrative rules. Back in June, we let you know that we had just submitted them to Secretary of State. The public notice, we had a public hearing on June 19th, and we did not receive any comments. Also no comments through email or any other way. And so those went into effect as of July 1st, which is great because that means they are effective for our grant cycle coming up. And then next, we've been working on our core project inspections for this year. And we actually completed 2 more yesterday on our way here, Medford and Ashland. So we've completed 9 so far this year and have 5 more scheduled. And then we'll have a couple more early fall to check out. So then the most exciting part of the year for us is our grant cycle is going to be starting soon. We'll be running the application period as usual, 3 weeks in October. We'll be providing our applicant training in September, so we'll try to do it as close to the application period as possible. And this year, we also reached out to last cycle's Aviation Review Committee members and just asked them to provide some additional feedback on the areas where they felt like the applicants could have either included better information in their applications or other statistics information would help the Aviation Review Committee be able to either understand the projects better or rank them in comparison to how important those projects are. So we're excited to be able to include those updates in our training and also in the application process. And this year, our estimated funding is $3.5 million. We still, of course, will have our fuel tax revenue coming in through the end of the year. And so it's possible we could have a little bit more once it comes time for the funding. Just an overview of our core cycle. We run it the same every year. So the application period will run in October. ODAV staff will do the internal review in November. And then, excuse me, the Aviation Review Committee will review applications. They will complete their cohort meetings and then have the final Aviation Review Committee meeting where they all come together, rank and review, and create their recommendations for approval by the Aviation Board. And then as every year in February, we will present that to the board for approval and then begin executing new agreements. So we're excited to get that going. And then we've got our ASAP report to the legislature. This is required every year according to ORS 319.023. It's a summary of all the ASAP projects from inception of the program. So not only core, but also SOAR, the state-owned airport projects. And we still have our one ROAR grant ongoing for Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. This report is required to be submitted to the Joint Committee on Transportation by September 15th. So today we ask for your approval and then we will submit it.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. And I would just say, I know I've said this before, but really the core process is so much better to be a part of now. It's just been so streamlined and easily to understand. And staff has always been really great about answering questions in a timely manner. So
thank you
very much. I'm sure I speak for all of the airport managers across the state, but we very much appreciate those improvements.
we're excited too because we're fully staffed for this course cycle since Irmi joined us.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, any questions for Andrea? I don't see any, so I just need a motion to approve the 2024.
Sorry, Chair Stephen. So John Pascal agreed with Catherine in the chat.
Okay, very good. So I just need a motion. This looks like it's broken into two, so this will be two motions. The first one is a motion to approve the 2024 ASAP report to the legislature as presented. I just need a motion. That was Sarah, so moved.
Yep.
There's a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
The second action item there was the city of Burns, so that one has been removed.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, they didn't have that crossed off on mine. So I'll just note.
Chair Stevens,
go ahead, Holly.
I just want to give you an update. That's correct. I sent you an email on the updated agenda. We did receive a last minute Burns Airport amendment request. They wanted, the city of Burns had requested to have this agenda item removed from the agenda. So the topic will no longer be discussed at this time per email correspondence yesterday, 7:31. So I just wanted to make that documented for the record.
Great, thank you, Holly, appreciate that.
You split that motion.
We cover the ASAP, yeah.
Okay, because I thought you were.
I was just noting it down below and I didn't have the crossed off version of the agenda.
Okay, so that last motion did cover the ASAP.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and my understanding is that Burns is trying to solve that issue in a different way. So we'll see. It's possible it may come back to us at some point, but at least for now, they're going to try to do it a different way. Okay, how are we doing on time? I know we've got the state airports manager update coming up next. Would anyone like a bio break before we go into that report?
I'm fine.
Good. Okay, we will just keep moving on then, and we will go to Tony with the.
Okay, let me share my screen. I think this is the correct one. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Starting there we go, my August 1st airports update with a drone photo of the Owyhee Reservoir State Airport.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, there were too many photos and videos to share here, but we had a great visit out here. I'm going to get into this trip that we had the week of our June board meeting and just share a little bit about visiting the 4 airports in the central and southeast part of Oregon. Started with the Alkali Lake State Airport. This airport is in the south central part of Oregon, and just wanted to share a few things from this airport. This shows our efforts to maintain this very rural airstrip out off of the highway. And just the great work that staff does with replacing our windsocks, keeping those bright and replacing them when they get shredded or faded. And then also the amount of work that goes into just maintaining these airstrips. Staff was very happy. They were grinning ear to ear and said, "We're winning this battle against all the vegetation." So they were very happy, and I'm very happy as well. They're doing a great job, including the tie down area where we have some things, and our check-in station where we have information where pilots can check in and let us know how they're using the airport. Same thing out at the Rome State Airport. A couple of years ago, this airport was, it looked very similar to what you see in the background here. And now, again, they're winning the battle against the vegetation. So really happy to see that. It's a great result. At the McDermott State Airport, This airport is in the very far southeast corner, right on the border of Nevada. And we got a great visit out here. And just showing some of the improvements that were done at this airport back in, I believe it was 2018. It was just prior to me joining the department. And that airport is looking great as well. Finally, the Owyhee Reservoir State Airport. This is the infamous airport, very rural out in Bureau of Land Reclamation land that you cannot access by land. So you can only get to this airport by flying in or by boat, which is what we did. So want to give a huge shout out to the Malheur County Sheriff's Office for taking us out there. Historically, we have not been able to access this airport to do our self-inspections to meet our KPMs. And now that we have coordinated with the Sheriff's Office, we are really excited that we're going to be able to meet that KPM for this airport going forward. So on this trip, we also replaced the windsock, completed a 5010, which is what Don is doing, our operations specialist, on the image on the right. And then he installed a new sign with a new way for pilots to check in via text. And it was the very next weekend, he already received comments and photos from pilots using the airport. So really effective. And that was purely Don taking the initiative to create this new way for pilots to get in touch with us and so we can stay informed. So really happy about that. This last week has seen a very big uptick in fire activity at state airports. So and this is now a little bit out of date. I was just informed this morning that the Joseph Airport is no longer in use, but it did have a partial closure for firefighting activity. Crescent Lake State Airport, McKenzie Bridge, Oak Ridge, Prospect, and Toketee are also being used and closed for firefighting activity. And then Condon had a partial closure for heli-based operations as well. So lots of activity going on, and really happy that our state airports can help facilitate that activity to help meet the needs for all fighters. We have a couple upcoming events, including this Saturday at the Cottage Grove State Airport. The Oregon Aviation Historical Society is hosting the Jim Wright Memorial Steerman Fly-In. And then the Columbia Aviation Association on Saturday, August 14th is the Memorial Fly-In. I believe that's a Saturday. Is that right?
No,
No.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay, August 14th. At the Aurora State Airport, the Columbia Aviation Association is holding their Memorial Fly-In. And then at the end of August on the 24th and 25th, the EA Chapter 292 is hosting their fly-in and stall event at the Independence State Airport. Just want to give a shout out to the Friends of Pacific City for their volunteer service. They organized a work party that had folks from all over Oregon come in, and I think they had over 20, I'm not going to have the number correct, but it was over 20 volunteers that pitched in to really clean up the Pacific City Airport back in June on the 15th. Thank you for the Friends of Pacific City for your service. We are wrapping up mowing season and going into airport painting season. We have already refreshed a lot of markings at Aurora, but we have final markings applications as part of our recent project that we completed. After the curing period, the contractor is going to come back and reapply the final markings at Aurora. We're also going to go refresh markings at Chiloquin, Crescent Lake, Independence, Oak Ridge, and Pinehurst. Independence is coming up next week, August 6th through the 8th. And while it's mostly a refresh of the markings we had, we are making a couple of changes, and these are to the run-up areas in the north and south end, where the center lines did not meet taxiway and taxi lane object-free area clearances or standards. So we are removing the center line for the taxi lane or for the run-up center line to not conflict with the center line for the taxiway. So we'll just make a couple changes to reflect that. And then we've communicated through GovDelivery just kind of what that means. And if any aircraft are in that run-up area, that any aircraft using taxiway alpha should use caution because they're within the taxiway object-free area. Couple project updates. The very long-standing EA rewrite for the Aurora State Airport obstruction removal project. We just heard this week that the FAA has finished their legal and technical review, and we expect they'll be publishing the public notice very soon. So really happy to get that update and appreciate the FAA for moving that one along. After that EA is complete, we'll begin appraisals and easement acquisition. Malino and Chiloquin, we're still contracting for appraisals and easements. Also, I did mention this before, but I just want to mention again that we did complete the obstruction removal on the state-owned land and the properties that we have easements over at Malino back in March of this year. Other upcoming project updates, the Aurora Surface Seal and Markings project. Thank you, George, from the FAA for your comments. Appreciate that. We're really happy to have that project completed. Not only did it provide maintenance for all the state-owned taxiways, aprons, and taxi lanes, but also refreshed all the markings. We brought up the markings to FAA standard, including widening the non-moving area boundary marking to make it more identifiable, and that is to help pilots and airport users be aware of where that marking is and prevent VPDs. We also made a couple other changes. I'll go into it here in just another minute. As I mentioned, final paint application will happen later this summer or early fall, which will have an additional, we expect about 3 days of closure for that work. The Aurora Airport Master Plan, we had our PAC meeting on Tuesday, the 30th, where we went over the refined alternatives. And our next PAC meeting will be September 17th. The Cape Blanco runway rehabilitation project starts today. This project is purely state funded from funds given by the legislature and from our SOAR funds. And it will rehabilitate the center 75 feet of runway width and at full length and provide electrical improvements, including a new electrical building, edge lighting, and signage. So that project starts today and has 90 days for completion. So we expect the runway and taxiways will be closed for 90 days. Prospect, we're scheduling for the spring of 2025 for that runway rehabilitation as well, or the reconstruction. Just a little more on the Aurora Surface Seal project. This is a picture of the completed apron, taxi lanes, and taxiway. One of the changes I mentioned is the non-movement line, which is more conspicuous. And then we did bring some of the islands that we had on the airfield, the paved islands, up to FAA standard by including green markings. So that first marking was the tower apron, and then this one is down on the south end near the FBO, Atlantic Aviation. And then during the closure, we took advantage of the closure for our staff to go out and refresh the markings on the runway as well. So the runway, the segmented circle, all the taxi lanes, every surface has fresh paint on it, and the airport, in my opinion, looks very great. Again, that is one method we're trying to mitigate VPDs and prevent these surface incidents at Aurora. We have had an uptick recently in the last 2 months with 4 VPDs since our last meeting. Really hoping that these refresh markings will have an impact, as well as recent outreach and then the upcoming driver's training program, rulemaking, and the other engineering solutions that we're looking at in the master planning process right now. And then this is just a comment on the rulemaking. A little more info on the Cape Blanco project. The runway and the taxiways will be closed. The apron will be open for helicopters. But we expect all of those services, the taxiways and runway, to be closed for 90 days. And just another project we have going on, the Chiloquin State Airport is having pavement maintenance work done right now, which is thanks to ODAV's pavement maintenance program, where they're going in and doing joint repair on all of the surfaces. All of those updates and surface closures and maintenance activity happening in these airports were shared with outreach through our Gov delivery system. If anyone did not receive these emails or notifications for these airports and would like to, you can subscribe to emails from ODA. This is a screenshot of the center right-hand portion of the main page, our homepage on our website. And that's at oregon.gov/aviation. Just click that blue link, subscribe to emails from ODA, and then manage your subscriptions on the different airport topics you'd like to receive.
Hi, Tony. I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Please update that screenshot because I have updated the ODA to ODAV on our website. Just
great. Yes, this was a slide I borrowed from a couple of years ago, so thank you. Will do. And then you also can manage your subscriptions if you already received them by clicking that blue link at the very bottom of each notice and update your preferences or unsubscribe if you prefer, but please don't. Any questions?
Tony, thank you. With the kind of nature of some of our super remote airports, how do you get feedback on maintenance required? Address those.
On required maintenance, we do get out to the airports on a fairly regular basis. The one we had the biggest challenge with was Hawaii, but we do inspect all airports at least quarterly, and the check-in stations, whether it's the physical mailbox that we're trying to transition away from, or now this new text method, just helps us stay informed on if there's any issues. If it just helps us be aware of how much usage the airports are getting. People can give us remarks, comments, any feedback, and then if there is something that we're not aware of, whatever the event may have been, we can go and make those repairs.
I've landed at Hawaii, and I'll send a message next time I do that.
Yeah, please do.
It's a neat spot.
Yeah.
We have a question from Sarah Lucas.
Hey, Tony, I just wanted to thank you for that thorough review and update on what's happening with your department. And just to reiterate how great that Gov delivery system is. I'm subscribed and I feel like I'm in the loop on what's happening, even if it's not in my region because of, the preferences I've selected. And so thank you and all of the management that is using that tool. I think that's a great way, especially where the website is still a little difficult to manage. That Gov delivery is a great way to get the word out quickly to those who need the information.
Thank you, Sarah. While I do select the specific airport group for each topic, I also check the board box, so you all get those as well, but thank you.
Kenji has a question.
Kenji?
Sorry
Go
about
ahead,
that. All right. So for the record, quick thing. Sarah, we're still working on the website. We have a new person coming on board, and that'll be sort of the part of their job duties as well. So that's super exciting. And I want to say for the record, I did not take the drone photos in Tony's presentation. That was Dawn. And then Tony, did you take the one out at Hawaii?
Yeah.
So he for those who don't know, Tony's actually quite artistic, and his drone flying skills are pretty good. And he told me it's because he plays video games really well. So thought you might like that.
Grew up playing, what can I say?
And then Brian, fly out to Wahi and make sure to post it on Instagram on your TAC Arrow account so we can get some more folks out there. Because if folks don't know, follow TAC Arrow on Instagram. It's one of the most famous. Well, actually, it's a very, very popular Instagram sort of account. And it's also one of his planes is going to be in the next edition of Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you haven't heard that too, so lots of exciting news. Yeah.
Yeah. We also have a 4-part movie on YouTube, and I think it's the first part because we went into the backcountry of Idaho. There's footage of all of us landing at Oahe and walking around, and
nice.
it's just really beautiful. So you can actually see that part of the state as we fly through it, and I'll share that with the board.
Tony, I just wanted to give you kudos for all the work you've done on those Eastern Oregon remote airports. They're clearly looking much better than they had been. So that's great work. My one concern about your presentation is the continued vehicle pedestrian incidents at Aurora. And we've been trying forever to fix that problem. So I'm wondering if you can, and if you don't have it now, but maybe at a future board meeting, if you can detail exactly what kind of deviations those are and why they continue to happen. Do we have repeat offenders? What is the consequence when, there's a vehicle pedestrian incident? Deviation. I know you've done all the education piece, so I'm wondering if maybe there needs to be a next step.
The next step is that rulemaking that we had started a couple of years ago. The feedback that we received was that the driver's training program would help provide the information for people to not to know what they can and can't do. That will supplement the outreach and education we've already done. But we will be bringing the rulemaking to the board in the future. And then, as I mentioned, the markings, it's just one piece to help delineate where people can and can't go. We are looking at the engineering solutions in the master plan as well, including more islands. And in our refined alternatives, we're looking at full-length vehicle service roads, taxi lanes, other layers of separation to prevent people from having VPD so easily.
Yeah, I would be curious to know if that is going to be enough either. I mean, those are kind of longer term solutions, especially the engineering solutions, right? And frankly, what we're talking about is someday we're going to have an incident when somebody gets hurt, right? So we can't just keep doing the same thing. I know you guys have been trying, but there may need to be some other kind of solution. I know at my airport, we did education until we were blue in the face and it didn't work. So we put a finding system in place.
Yeah, and we'll continue working on that as well. It's high on our radar. It's high on the FAA's radar as well. It needs a meaningful solution.
Yes, right. I agree.
Angie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to note that we did talk to Ryan over at the ADO, and they said make it a priority, and that's one of the reasons we talked with Steve's crew over the Port of Portland, and they were great and gave us a sample driver's training program. So Tony's working on that. I know it's a priority for him and just getting it done. And I think it's part of that layered approach. We did the paint, we do the driver's training program, then rulemaking, so we can just find when appropriate, right? It's like we don't want to be there to just be outlandish and just say, hey, you're going to be fined $10,000 for first infraction or so. But I think it's just that layered approach. And I know Tony's been swamped, so it's just a matter of just getting to that. And I know it's at the top of his to-do list. So that's definitely in progress. And I think that is a priority for the next couple months.
Thank you. Any other questions for Tony?
Just wanted to mention too, Catherine, I appreciate the photos of the update of the markings and better delineations there at Aurora, and be interested to see the follow-up, like you said, about how or if that improves the VPD situation there. But I appreciate the work that your team and the maintenance team has done.
Right. Very good. So let's see. We should probably do a time check. So I'm looking at our guest presenter, and there's an hour allotted to that. Is that accurate, Holly? Is that going to be an hour-long presentation?
So it's Sergeant Kyle Williams. He's expecting to join us, I think, later in the afternoon after lunch. So, I mean, we have time to take our lunch and a break. Because I do not see him online yet either. So, um,
Okay, so you anticipate that will be an after lunch presentation?
Yeah.
Hey, Kenji.
So, Catherine, quick thing for you. If folks don't know, Kyle Williams is actually a national leader. He's one of the leadership of Law Enforcement Drone Association. He's located in Eugene of all places. So, Catherine, just if you haven't connected to him, please do, because I think it'd be a very interesting conversation to have with him. If you need me to facilitate, happy to do that as well.
Sounds good. So do we have a time certain on that, Holly? Do we know a time that he will be logging in?
So according to the agenda, I told him around 12:30, 1 would be his hour. And it looks like Kristen still has her presentation to do as well. So it's up to the board, and if you would like to take a break, a 5-minute break, if anything, right now. But
Yes, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and do Kristen's presentation. And then we'll probably break for lunch to be able to try to hit that timeline for Sergeant Williams.
There's a message in the chat. I just want to Chair Stevens. Recently, a video was published by Serco addressing surface safety at UAO, and that is from George Bewley, the FAA.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go on recess for 5 minutes, come back and do the finance manager.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, it's 11:20. Are we ready to reconvene?
No, we're still missing a few people, so might
Okay.
need a couple.
Okay, thanks, Kristen.
Nice job, Holly.
I'm glad that worked.
Yeah, me too. I figured it was operator error.
You're fine.
Well, sometimes.
And Kristen, just don't forget to share your screen. Okay, I just because I know it's up there in front of everybody. Thank you. It looks great.
Can you see the presentation, Holly?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay.
And please let me know when everybody's ready to continue.
I was exhausted just to let it know. Everybody's ready.
Yes. We are.
We're ready to go? Okay.
He was gone.
Okay, Kristen, take it away.
Okay, I'll get started. So I am going to go over the budget overview and then more specifically the 25-27 agency request budget overview. And then we're going to do a board vote on the legislative concept in the removal of airport and aircraft fees from ORS. Okay, so this is the overall budget development overview. And so I've been showing you this each board meeting to just show you where we are in the process. So yesterday morning, we turned in our agency request budget. And so I'm going to give you a high level overview of that today. And so that was basically, we started off with our current service level budget. We added in the POPs that the board voted on at the last meeting. And that's how we came up with our agency request budget. Since we just turned it in yesterday, I didn't have time to give it to the board for a read ahead. So I'll give it to you for the next meeting. So you can look through it and see if you want any changes made to it, because we do have an opportunity to make changes during the governor's budget, and then also again at the legislatively adopted budget. So we have a lot of time to make changes if there's any needed for that. And the legislative concept that you're going to be voting on, that'll go through the whole entire legislative session. And then if it's approved, it will go into our budget, and we execute on that budget July 1st. And so at the end of the process, the board will vote on that budget. Okay, so this is a high-level overview of the budget for the agency request budget. So it's a little over $39 million. So AC is our aircraft registration program. That's our smallest program. PMP is the pavement maintenance program. ASAP is our grant program. So you can see that's our largest program. OP stands for operations. And GA is our general aviation entitlement program. So that's all of our smaller projects that are under $1 million. And just to give a little more context, I wanted to show you a comparison between our last biennium budget so you can see how it's different. So the light blue is our last biennium budget and the dark blue is our current one. So you can see last biennium, we had a budget for capital construction over 12 million. So the reason we don't this biennium is we look at our 5-year CIP and we put in any of the projects that are over $1 million that are going to get started in the current biennium. We put those into the budget. So for this current budget, we don't have any projects that are going to be starting that we didn't already put in the last biennium. So we will be doing some of the projects that we already put in, but we didn't need to add any into this budget. Airport projects, we don't have that program for this budget. So that was the general funds that we received for Cape Blanco. So we had to do a new appropriation for that. And since that'll be finished this biennium, we're not putting that in the current biennium. Aircraft registration budget is very similar to last biennium, just went up a little bit for inflation and cost of living adjustments. PMP also has just gone up a little bit for inflation and cost of living adjustments. The ASAP program has gone up a little bit too, but it's very similar. Operations has gone up about $2 million, and so that's just inflation and cost of living adjustments there. The general aviation entitlement budget, that one went up a few $1 million. So that is because in this biennium, we have a lot more of the smaller projects that are planned than we did last biennium. So those are all the ones you voted on at the last budget, or the last meeting, I'm sorry. And this next one is just a summary of the revenues for the budget. So our highest revenues are the federal funds and then the jet fuel tax. And then we have several small revenues that make up the remaining of the budget. So the non-business license and fees, that's mostly your aircraft registration fees. And then we have some other small ones. Rents and royalties is 2%. So those are land leases, hangar fees. And then we have just some other very small revenues that make up the budget. And that was the last slide I had on our budget. So did you have any questions on that before I go on to the board vote for the legislative concept?
Steve has his hand up. So Steve. Oh, it's Jim. Jim. Okay.
Jim, you have a question?
Oh. My turn?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Could you go back a slide where it shows the comparison, or go one more back? The one before that one.
Yes, I'm trying to get there.
There we go.
There we go.
So as we went through the process of evaluating Connect Oregon grants, I found it really highlighted, you know, the challenges that we have as state-owned airports. Where do we find funding to take take care of these really important and pressing issues? Which portion or portions of this particular budget, I mean, this is a really good slide to kind of take a look at. Where would we begin to look for funds to take care of some of those pressing state airport needs?
Oh, so in this current budget, so the general aviation entitlement is the smaller projects. Connect Oregon is not in our budget at all. That's in the ODOT's budget.
Yeah.
And so, yes, if we have airport needs, this budget right here is all of the projects. It's based on our 5-year CIP. So those are projects that we planned with the FAA. So if we see something upcoming that we have a need for it and it's federally funded, then we have a means to put it in the budget there. And then if it's not federally funded airport, that's where we do have the challenge that we do have to look to other sources of funding. So look for other grants or look for funding from the legislator, from general funds.
So would we be looking at the GA entitlement category as using some of those funds to take care? I mean, just throwing out an example, Condon Airport, where they really needed, and I saw some photographs that was really, really eye-opening about those specific needs. Where would you recommend that we, I'm not saying that specific project, but things like that came up during, our overview of requests for Connect grants? Where would we, which portion of this would we try to use in order to address some of those issues?
So all of these funds are already allocated to projects. So for the general aviation entitlement funds, those are already allocated to all the projects that we have planned. So there's not room for, unfortunately, a new project to go into any of those funds.
If I can jump in right.
Yeah.
So our normal maintenance comes out of operating, and then the entitlements and other FAA funding we get go to the airports that we have that are included in the NIPIAS. The non-NIPIAS airports can utilize our SOAR funds, which we don't have enough funding to do all the projects, but we're prioritizing projects like the Oak Ridge Airport that needs its runway replaced.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, it looks like we're good to go.
Okay, so for the next item, so this is the board vote. So I sent you a read ahead just to give you a little more background on this. So this is our legislative concept that we're putting forward to remove airport and aircraft fees from ORS. So we're removing them from the statute, but then we're going to add them into administrative rule. So this will just give us a little more flexibility if they're in rule, because if they're in statute, we have to go through the whole entire legislative process to make any changes. So even simple changes to keep up with CPI. So we're also wanting to, as we work through the language, put in something in there so that we can keep up with CPI in the language of the rule. And so those fees right now are airport site fees, licensings of airports. So those two are very small revenue sources for an agency, under $10,000. And then aircraft registration fees is about $400,000 a year. So that's a big revenue source for us. So we haven't changed any of these fees for over 10 years. So it is due to at least put some sort of inflation change in there. And so that is what I've already explained to you. So we are looking to hopefully update the language so that we can change it based on the CPI. And do we have any questions on that? I also wanted to mention, we did put this in our last budget cycle, and the board did vote on it, approved it. It went all the way through. It became a bill, but it didn't get passed at the very end. The session was, it ended very abruptly. So it just kind of got cut at the end. So I don't think it was anything, I don't think anyone necessarily had a problem with it. It just didn't make it through at the end. So we're trying again for it. So, okay.
Do you have a question from Sarah Lucas?
Okay.
Kristen, I just had one question on this. So moving, is it only to allow for CPI adjustments, or is it CPI and any adjustments that the department sees necessary?
It would be any adjustments we would see necessary. But if we made any adjustments, we would have to go through the administrative rule process. So we can't just change it. We do have to go through the process to make any changes, and we would have the board vote on that as well, to accept any changes that we wanted to do.
Okay, so there would be checks and balances on the actual fee above and beyond a CPI adjustment.
Yes, there would be.
Even the CPI adjustment.
Jim Knight.
Yeah.
Kristen, could you go back one slide? I would like to see that. We went, real fast through that one.
Mhm.
All right.
This one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, there was a good point. Even with the CPI adjustment, that would go through administrative rules, so the board would vote on that as well.
Okay, so Kristen, couldn't you structure that, assuming that if we take it out of the ORS, put in a rulemaking, set a CPI, but couldn't you, in that rulemaking, set a periodic CPI adjustment so that we wouldn't have to go continually?
Yes, you're right. And maybe I didn't explain that as well. That is what we're planning on doing, is putting it in there automatically so we can make automatic adjustments. So we don't have to, every time we don't have to go through the rule process to adjust the CPI.
But if there's an additional adjustment that, the department wanted to make, then it would come.
Then it could come back to the rule. Yes. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, any other questions about this? Give it another shot, this Kristen.
Yeah.
Were you saying something, Holly?
Oh, there's no questions. No hands raised on internet land.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I just need a motion to approve the LC removal of airport and aircraft fees from the ORS.
So moved.
I will
Okay. Steve can second, whoever was second.
Whoever was second, okay. We
Steve
have
was
a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I had.
Okay, very good. I think we will skip over, let's see. We'll skip over a presentation that we know is coming after lunch. So we're going to try and hit lunch right at noon. Does that sound right, Linda?
They're actually prepared to do you guys a little early, since it looked like you were running ahead of schedule according to Kristen. So I told them that they may see us at 11:45, and they said that was fine. So.
Okay. So we could do that, or knowing that we've got an hour-long presentation after lunch, I would suggest that I would actually like to skip to other business really quick, because I have an item I'd like to bring up. And then we could also do board updates dependent on time. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll move to other business right now. And this is the time provided for the board or staff to bring up topics not on the agenda. And so my item is this: as we were talking about, having all of these updates, knowing that Oak Ridge is in process for a couple of different grant processes, but also we were talking about these legislative concepts. And so I'm wondering if we should have a discussion about also putting forward a legislative concept for special funding through the legislature for the Oak Ridge Airport, just as two other airports received funding last year directly from the legislature, but Oak Ridge did not. And I know that that was an initiative that tried to get funding for. I'm just looking forward to say, if for some reason we don't get the grant funding for Oak Ridge, either through Connect Oregon or the Department of Energy, correct?
EDA, economic development.
Yes. Then do we want to have a backup plan where we already have an LC in motion to try and get that in front of the legislature this next session, just in case?
So we might have to do a different way to do that. So for the legislative concepts, we already had to turn in what our proposals were. But there are some other ways you can do it when you work with, certain legislators and senators, and we've done that before,
right?
To help us push it through like on their end. So there's another way to do it. Yes.
Like add it to the Christmas tree belt.
Yeah.
Do we have an ideas on who might be a primary sponsor for us on this particular topic?
That would be a good question for Kenji.
We have been talking to a number of legislators about our legislative concepts. Among them was also a fuel tax increase that we've been talking to. The governor's has been has been forward with us and saying, hey, you're not going to get any general fund money next year, so we can try, but definitely I think what it'll take is going through a legislator as well, so we have to be very careful on how we do that.
Okay, well, I would just say, let's make sure we've got some other plan in motion, likely with a legislator in that region support. And I say never, Kenji, even if the governor says we're not getting general funds. If that's a critical firefighting need, I have to believe that would be supported.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. But I think from the agency perspective, we have to be just very careful on how we proceed.
Sure, of course, yeah, understand. And if that is something that the board members can help serve in that role, approaching legislators, we could certainly serve in that role if that's better for you. Yeah, okay, I see the positive nod. Okay, well, we will loop back around with that. Are there any other new business that board members would like to bring up? See Jim stand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with the board.
Jim,
I think we've got an open mic.
Jim.
Hang on 1 second.
Oh, yes, I do see. Just let me mute this.
There we go. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
All right. So after our workshop, and we had discussion later on after the meeting was over with about who should be representing the board on our recommendations for the ODAV grants. And both Jeff and I said that we'd be happy to do that. And I recommended that Jeff take the lead. And he had stated, fundamentally that he's happy to do that. However, there is the chance that he would not be able to attend because of fighting fires. So I agreed that I would fill in for him. And so we've got me all set up, ready to go in case at the last minute that Jeff can't be there. I will be there, and I'll do a good job of representing our board and representing particularly the grants that are above, the grant requests that are above the cut line. So what I'd like to do during this next week until that meeting happens is contact each one of those airports. And, from my experience, after you submit a grant and you go through all the discussions, sometimes you say, I wish I had said something differently or put it in a different way. So I think I'd like to give the opportunity to each one of those applicants to say, to discuss what are the highlights that you really would like ODOT to be able to hear so that we can do a good job of representing them. And I'll share those comments with Jeff, so he'll be well prepared to represent us if he's able to attend. So any questions or comments about what I just said?
Hey, Jim, when is that date coming up for that session?
I believe it's the 7th of August. It's next week. Just a second.
It's August 7th, yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
Knowing that Jeff's been deployed to a fire right now, do you want a third backup?
Well, it never hurts. I suppose there's a possibility of an emergency that I can't attend, but I have every intention of going. I'll be there regardless if Jeff tells me he's going to be there, because there's always, again, that last chance that he could sure. not attend. So I'll be there, but I'd certainly welcome a third backup.
I think it might not be a bad idea. There's a couple of us that can't serve in that capacity.
Right.
So we can probably talk offline and see if maybe we should have someone could be an on-call essentially, right?
Yes. So just to allay anybody's fears of, oh my gosh, there's a lot to do, but I personally have the time to dive back into each of those grants that were above the cut line. And I'll prepare, notes of these are the highlights, the most important issues that need to be considered. And then to have that updated with comments from each airport that's above that line. So if you do want to be that third person, I'll have a document or some information for you ready to speak in case I can't be there as well.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. And thank you for serving that in that capacity along with Jeff as well.
And no problem. Glad to do it.
Okay. Well, Linda says they're ready for us. So perhaps we'll take our lunch break now and then be ready to come back at, since we're going upstairs, should we say 12:30?
Sounds good.
Okay.
12:30, 12:45. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, speakers at 1, right?
Speakers at 1.
So 1 hour for lunch.
So we could do an hour for lunch. We'll come back at 12:45. Maybe we'll get board updates out of the way and then have our presentation. Okay, great.
Everybody say lunch.
Quick thing, Catherine, I'll be back on when you come back from lunch, but then I gotta hop off into, there's an ASEO board meeting as well. So
Okay, yep.
I'm gonna miss part of Kyle's presentation, which stinks, but so.
Triple scheduling, I know it very well.
I know. All right, we'll see you in a bit.
Hi, Kristen. So I just got off the phone with Kyle, and he should be arriving closer to maybe 12:50, since he was expecting to start at 1, but he's going to start sooner. I told him we were a little ahead of schedule.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Holly.
You're welcome.
We've got 5 minutes.
How was dinner last night? Oh, it's on mute.
We don't have this in there
Sorry, there, it's unmuted now. Yeah, it was great.
because we only sell to club member.
Yeah.
Right. So it works out pretty nicely, but it's still the same OLCC.
Yeah, you still need to be ticketed servers.
Access now. So they just started an online system. I used to have to drive to sale from Aurora.
Yeah.
But I had to go down there and read my license every year. Now they have it online, so.
My wife used to work for Rogue Brewery
Mhm.
and then
Newport.
the mechanic had hours just to help with events and stuff like that.
Basic day licenses and things. Or,
Yeah, we did have the server license.
yeah. And I have a server license, so I think I have a server license, maybe 2 years now. I got a server's license. I don't even know why. Not the best. I just wanted to see what the class was like. Right, so,
And good flourish.
Good class. Got my server license.
It's always interesting to look at systems and.
Oh, yeah. There's so much CYA in our government.
And while we wait for Kyle to arrive, should we start the next items? It looks like towards the end of the agenda. Other business
stuff.
Agenda input for our 2024 annual schedule.
Sure. So we can do that. I don't know. We skipped over board updates, so we could probably do board updates if anyone from the board has anything to share. Thinking Steve Nagy might have something to share.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we are opening the new terminal at PDX on about 3 a.m. on the morning of August 14th. So a little less than 2 weeks from now. We ran through our first trials. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Oh, sorry. We ran through our first trials on Tuesday with about 600 members of public and we will do a second set of trials on Saturday with about 22 or 2,400 people. And we will be ready. So if you fly out on August 14th or come back into Portland after August 14th, you will have a brand new experience.
I fly out on the 10th, so that'll be the old, but I'm flying back on the 21st, so I'll see the new one on the way back.
There you go.
International, so I'll experience your international terminal.
Great.
Looking forward to that, Steve. Very excited to see the big reveal.
We are too.
Any other board updates? Okay. We're good with that. And then we'll skip to the agenda input. If anybody, any board members have input for future agendas. Right. I don't see any. So the next meeting date, just to note it for the record, is September 5th. And that will be a board work session, which will be online. And I think we have gone through our entire agenda other than our guest presenter. So hopefully he'll be able to join us shortly.
Jim Knight has his hand up.
Oh, Jim, go ahead. You take yourself off mute.
Sorry. It's possible we may have the results from the Connect grant applications by the time our next board meeting is. So that might be an opportunity to share the news. I'm not sure how the board would like to do that. So it was one thing I thought of might be important to share. It's kind of a big deal for a number of our airports.
Yeah, it sure is. And I think when those final decisions are made, generally there's an email that goes out.
Yeah. I was just wondering what that timing was. I'm not really clear of, they're going to, next week, they'll be making the decisions in the vote. So I would imagine that their vote is probably that day. Can't imagine why they would postpone making the decisions past the 7th. It would have to bring folks back together again. So if any of you have any prior experience that once we've been through that Connect, I've been through it, but that was a number of years ago. But when would it become public? What would be your wild guess?
Andrea?
This is the first time I've been involved
Okay.
in Connect Oregon. So yeah, do you guys know from like last cycle?
This is Alex. We could check in with John at ODOT. I don't think any of us have done this enough to know or set a date. So we can check in with John and go from there.
Good idea, Alex.
A few years ago, Hood River got a Connect 6 grant, and I think it was almost immediately when they decided, they just published. They let us know.
Yeah.
But for all of the projects, and it may be that staff might need to compile all the aviation projects real quick for us just to tell us what got funded.
Yeah, I think there should be some celebration going on through our board meeting at some point, of recognizing the efforts that went into the applications themselves is pretty substantial. So I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, good suggestion. Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
And I did get a text saying he will be joining in just a few minutes. So if anybody has any other questions or comments, please raise your hand or make a note in the chat. And I just wanted to mention too, the FAA appreciates, ODAV's efforts to reduce surface events at UAO. There was a message left in the chat by George Bewley of FAA.
Very good. I don't think I have handy for our next on-site meeting is. Do you have that handy, Holly?
So that's going to be for October 3rd at, let me go ahead and, well, it should be on the 2024 annual schedule here, so I'll pull that up.
North Bend?
I think so.
Yep.
Yes, North Bend, that's correct.
Great.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, a good one.
And then the Cape Blanco.
Yeah, that's. I gotta spend an extra day again.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good. Unfortunately, I'll have a conference conflict on that one, so I'll have to just tease into it.
And that meeting is usually the board planning session one day, and then the
I see. Okay.
the October
All right,
one.
Kyle.
I do evaluate that.
Kyle Williams just popped in. Hi, Kyle.
Hey,
Welcome.
Hello there.
And then Thursday the regular.
Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to give us a presentation on drones as a fire responder. So thank you so much. We've got board members in person here in Klamath Falls, and you've got several online on the Teams meeting as well. So we will give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to scoot in here as quick as I could. I thought I'd be early at 1, hoping you guys would be a little ahead of schedule. So glad this is all working out. Let me share.
And Kenji was just waving at you, Kyle.
Where's he at in there?
I'm here.
Hello,
How's it going,
hello,
buddy?
Kenji.
Hey.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
I'm good. How are you?
good. Are you going to show the pictures of your roof?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
I stayed late yesterday as we were getting them mounted. I was like, I need photos of this for tomorrow. So I hung
Awesome.
out longer than I was going to. Here we go. Sorry,
Cool.
it's been a little sluggish to share. Are you guys seeing? I don't think you're seeing my screen.
I can see your
We are.
screen.
Yes,
Are
you
you
can
seeing
see
the
it.
screen? Oh, gotcha. Okay. I don't use Teams a lot, so apologize for my my ineptness here. All right, are we full
Perfect.
screen on the PowerPoint for
Yes,
you guys?
we're good.
All right. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me here. Drone as a first responder is a super fascinating, complicated, brand new emerging technology for public safety as a whole. And we're pretty excited to be in a place to be able to be really sort of helping pave the path with other agencies across the country who are bringing this technology to their communities. We're going to go in a little bit. This is a little recruitment teaser video we made for our police department. So we'll watch a little video about us specifically, and then we'll talk about kind of where the team makeup has gone, and a little bit more. So drones really have been pretty transformational to our department. I was just talking to some detectives yesterday who commented that, there's a lot of technology that comes to public safety and law enforcement that has a change. It adjusts, or it has a positive impact in one part or another of what we do. There aren't very many things that come along that really do change the way we do business across the board. And drones are one of those really short list items, and probably the last, at least the 20 years of my career, and probably even the 20 years before that, where one single item really had an impact across the agency. So we started back in 2017, our crime scene mapping, or major crash investigations team, MCI, went down the road of wanting to buy a drone to do scene mapping. I was in a unique position in policy where I had the ability to sort of get my toes into that. And then I really saw the bigger value department wide. The department wasn't quite ready to launch for them. I was directed to start working on a policy. And from there, it took off. We wrote a policy, went to police commission, I think 3 times to get to a policy that they would bless. Did a pilot program with the city engaged in a policy making effort where I was able to sit on and be part of the citywide policy and citywide operations manual for UAS operations citywide. And then in 2019, we also had a unique range of leadership from our outgoing chief, who pushed the initial policy forward, an interim director who was dead set on making this thing happen in the 4 months before he was leaving, and then a new chief that embraced the technology with open arms. That really, any one of those not coming to fruition would have had a pretty negative effect on us getting launched to where we were, because there was a lot of skepticism and fear around what the community perception would be, what the usefulness would actually be. From there, we really have grown to a place where we're at 288 field deployments this year so far, not including our DFR shifts. That puts us I haven't even looked up those stats, but we're at a couple hundred at least DFR deployments so far as well. Our team is really impacting and working with nearly every team within the department. So we're doing Overwatch for crowd control operations. We're doing Overwatch for SWAT. We're doing interior tactical flying for SWAT and patrol. We're routinely getting called to help with aerial photography for investigations for major cases, and even smaller ones as time goes on and they see the value. We're having DAs requesting aerial photos of scenes before they go to court, so they have better visuals to show. Our crash investigations, of course, we do all the connecting tissue in the overhead, and then they use their Faro scanner to really scan in the more significant points of interest. And so we save a significant amount of time from them using the Faro scanner, LiDAR scanner, to really scan in the whole scene. And at the end of the day, it's faster and it's just a better product. It's easier for people that aren't used to seeing point clouds. It's easier for them to see what that scene looked like. Our team, and then interior to Overwatch. So we're doing a lot of inside flying. In fact, we had Springfield police had a shooting yesterday. Thought the suspect had gone back to his apartment. They were able to fly the entire interior and clear it to about a 99% effective rate with drones without having to send anybody inside the apartment. So it was a huge success for that one. He wasn't there, unfortunately, so he's still out on the loose, but dramatically reduces the risk of a force confrontation between police and the public, being able to have those eyes out ahead of time. And then we train on a monthly basis. I have made our trainings open to anybody and everybody that wants to show up. And that has led towards the Springfield police officers starting to come to our trainings. And then October will be 2 years now where we are an official Metro team with Springfield. The county may get on board at some point. We've got an open door to the U of O Police Department as well as the Cottage Grove Police. In fact, I'm donating a couple of our older drones to the Cottage Grove Police Department. Probably next week, we're finalizing that deal to help them get kickstarted. And it'll be interesting to see where the Metro concept goes and what we can do to help everybody make sure that they've got the skills and abilities when they need to actually deploy. And then, of course, everything we're doing is under the basis and what I've learned being part of the Law Enforcement Drone Association. We've got a couple little videos that'll give you a glimpse into what that is coming up here in a moment. Equipment-wise, we're primarily running DJI products. They just work the best at the best price point. They're phenomenally capable pieces of equipment. And then all the way down to some really knockoff FPV, basic fully manual FPV drones for interior flying. We're just transitioning to drone sense for patrol and drone as a first responder for our flight controls, flight logging, and live streaming. For the last 6 years, we've used AirData, which is a phenomenal tool for being able to check flight logs, pull data. If we have an issue, being able to look at all of the sensor readings and the flight path and the flight controls and whatnot. Unfortunately, we haven't had a couple of crashes. We've had a couple of equipment failures. So, and having that system has made it very simple to be able to review what occurred and make a pretty quick determination. And so far, totally accurate determination about whether or not it was a pilot error or an equipment malfunction problem. And then, of course, the DFR program. So this launched, really, we started down this path probably 2.5 to 3 years ago. Some leadership change, put it on the back burner, and then my chief went to a conference and talked to another chief and got a little competitive spirit rolling. And I was called in and told, yeah, we're actually going to do this, make it happen. And so that was back in October. We really kicked off in about February. And then things have progressed in some ways slower than I hoped, and in other ways much, much, much faster. So we'll get into those details here shortly. So here's a video. This is just kind of a general 2024 this year highlight video we just put together.
At LEDA, we train, we educate, and we innovate, preparing agencies nationwide for the future.
With our first standards document launch and exciting partnerships underway, 2024 is set to be a landmark year. Join a community of nearly 1,000 active members globally and our leadership team of 23 industry experts from across the United States, dedicated to advancing public safety. Whether starting or enhancing your drone program, LEDA is here to guide you as we set the standards in drone operations. So LEDA was formed here in the Pacific Northwest. It actually started in Oregon. Portland Police Bureau's chief pilot back in 2017 was collecting names of people that were doing drone work. He pulled together an initial meeting for folks to come together. And from there, we started meeting quarterly. And then in 2020, we formed as the Law Enforcement Drone Association in order to help agencies really enhance their training and helping everybody sort of figure it out under the mantra of don't screw this up. We recognize that this was still a sensitive technology, and one bad case would negatively taint, really nationwide could put a big negative view on this. And so it's grown wildly over the last few years. We had a 4-day conference in Boston back in June, and this next video is a recap of that conference. So I'm the vice president of the association. I was one of the original members that showed up to that first meeting with Josh. And everything that we're doing here, I have this amazing access. So we're actually up to 25 people between the board and the leadership team, 7 on the board, and then 18 on the leadership team of people that have incredible knowledge in this UAS space. And so it's very, very helpful for me as I've been building out our program to be able to, when I have a nuanced problem in one area or the other, I've got a guy that absolutely knows how to solve that problem at my fingertips. And it's been very, very useful for me.
Hey, Kyle. I'll get
Yeah,
that.
stand by. Go ahead.
No, just out of curiosity, did I show up at the first one or the second one?
You were the very, we call it a conference, but it really was just everybody wants to go to Bend for more than one day. So let's call it a conference, quarterly training.
Awesome. So after you're done with this video, I want to make a quick comment.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Awesome.
So we actually have a regional next week in Washington, DC. We'll have a regional training in Renton, Washington, 2 weeks after that, August 20th, 21st. I'll be going up for that. And then we've got a 4-day conference in Irvine, California in early September for the next. And then we've got more in October and November, but that's kind of our near schedule for training events.
Cool. So Kyle, can I chime in real quick?
Yeah,
so
go for it.
So for context for everybody, there are 2 major law enforcement drone organizations in the US. One is Drone Responders, which is more policy focused, and then you have LEDA. LEDA is very unique in that the organization actually has hands-on training. It also gets the manufacturers to bring out all their tools to these events where law enforcement actually gets to play with them, which is very unique. And and there's practical skills that are put to use. So it's very unique, and there's training and there's instruction on how to actually get a program going. So I think that's one of the unique pieces about Lead In, why they're so effective and why they're so popular. So big shout out to you, Kyle, and the entire crew for putting together such an effective program, awesome program to spread the word about law enforcement drone use as well. So that's just a little bit of context for all the board members, what role they play and what they do.
Yeah, thank you, Kenji. I appreciate that. It's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love for sure. The hard part is figuring out how to scale and maintain that hands-on training component that we feel is continues to be such an important piece of this training. It's one thing to sit in a room and talk about it. It's another thing to sit in the room and then go outside and practice those skills. But we're forging a path forward, and we think we're on a good route to be able to sort of satisfy both, scale to the need that's there while also keeping that element of it being more of an experience and not just another conference. So what is Drone as a First Responder? So we finally get to the meat and potatoes of what we're here for. Drone as a First Responder really was the brainchild of Fritz Reber and Vern Salee, Dodd and Redmond from Chula Vista Police Department down in Southern California, and really kicked off for them in 2018. I'm sure their conversations started happening before that. And it's essentially just the concept of bringing air support to agencies that couldn't afford air support. Aviation support for public safety has been on an interesting trajectory with a significant number of programs coming together with surplus equipment back in the 70s. And then as that equipment sort of phased out, agencies struggled to replace it, repair it, keep those programs going. And aviation programs have slowly shrunk. And now we're left with kind of where we're at, where it's really only the big areas, the major metropolitan areas that have that resource. And yet we've all seen the videos. The value that you get from having that overhead view is immense. And then in came drones, and we saw the value of the patrol response, being able to have a drone, somebody drive across the city 5 to 8 minutes and get a drone in the air, and huge value there. But if you can have a drone staged across the city and somebody sitting in a control room ready to push a button to launch a drone and being on scene within seconds to minutes as opposed to within 10 minutes, it makes a huge difference in your ability to, one, catch people in the act of actually doing what they're doing, and dramatically reducing the risk of force confrontations. The sooner we can get a camera on a suspect and be able to see that they are or are not an obvious, readily available threat, is a huge safety add. We can tell officers to stand back, hang on, I've got the eye. This person is armed with a gun. They are armed with a knife, or no, they're not. Or it's not a sword. They're swinging a broom handle around. It makes a big difference in what kind of a response we make. And so that really is the bulk of it. We're also seeing lots of places are seeing the value add of efficiency, being able to respond to a call and then recognize that it doesn't actually require a police response. And so you can clear calls. We're able to clear calls, give the community a touch point where we can call them back and tell them, hey, we're super busy right now, but I'm here with a drone. I'm not seeing the trespasser there anymore. Or I do see the disorderly person. It looks like they've left your property. Do you want to file a report? No, I just wanted them to leave, or I want them to get some help. Okay, well, I'll watch them for a while and see what happens, and then we'll bring officers or cahoots in if we need them. So they get oftentimes better customer service because they actually get to talk to a police officer. In lots of cases where, at least in Eugene with where we're at right now for staffing, they may not get that touch point. And we get to do a better job of seeing what actual risks and threats are out there. And so that's really what it is there support for all of public safety. It's not cheap to do it the right way. In fact, one of our leadership team members is the Sacramento Police Department's aviation supervisor or support team supervisor. So he supervises their crewed and uncrewed aircraft programs. And he has a deputy chief who would like to see them transition fully to drones. But the reality is with the detect and avoid systems required, and their unique position of already having a fleet of aircraft and actually a very efficient process for training and certifying pilots and equipment and stuff. It actually doesn't make financial sense for them to make a full transition at this time. But there's certainly going to be a place where that breakover starts to happen, and we start to see those programs evolve more towards the uncrewed operation, I believe. So how is EPD tackling it? We are in a very unique position where our city council, through several years of processes, enacted basically an emergency declaration for public safety in the city, and they enacted a community safety payroll tax. Convened a community board to look at options for how do we actually reevaluate our current police staffing needs that hadn't changed more than just a little bit in at least 40 years. And the mechanism they recommended to council was through a payroll tax. And so unfortunately, we were on a path of being overhired and doing a significant hiring push. And then COVID and George Floyd happened, and public sentiment towards the police became very complicated. And then just hiring in general became very complicated, as I'm sure everyone has seen and been impacted by. And so we unfortunately are woefully understaffed again. And so we're trying to catch up. What that means is that we also have some money to be able to do some projects that are in the interest and vision of the payroll tax. And this is one of those projects, because we're adding to public safety, we're increasing our effectiveness and our response times. And so I actually have for the first time in my 20 years, I actually have a budget that is robust and sufficient to really do everything I need to do to be successful from a financial standpoint. We are, and this is a constantly kind of evolving and squishy plan, but at this point, I have 2 sites in Eugene, 2 great partnerships with business owners and management in the city. Mid-Valley Glass and Millwork in West Eugene, and then the Yapoa Terrace, which is a low-income kind of retirement home. It's an apartment. Boy, I'm sorry, I'm totally drawing a blank. Anyway, it's a housing development that's the tallest building in Lane County. So it kind of towers over everything else in downtown, which is very nice for a visual observer post. We also were granted a first responder beyond visual line of sight certificate of authorization through the FAA. So that allows us to use a single visual observer for much of the Eugene Springfield area, using visual aids, which is really makes the need for a visual observer more useful, and really adds the value proposition to where that's actually not so terrible of a requirement for right now, while we wait for hardware detect and avoid systems to come through, and a real clear pathway to that regulatory BV loss. And then we built out a remote operations room here at the PD. This initial stage, we're using the DJI Dock 2 with the Mavic 3 thermal drone. So it's got about a 57 times zoom camera, and then a 640 by 480 thermal resolution sensor on it. It's IP rated. The box is fully IP rated. The drone is well IP rate, 55 or 65 maybe. It's a pretty robust rating. And essentially it wirelessly charges, launches, and recovers autonomously. It's cooled when the sun's out. It's got a cooling circuit that blows cold air over the battery to keep the battery and the electronics cold. And then in the wintertime, the batteries are self-heating, and it will provide enough power to maintain that battery warming in order to ensure that it's ready to launch 24/7 regardless of conditions. The only time that things might get complicated, and I don't know how we would address it other than just waiting, is these ice storms that we get occasionally. You certainly couldn't take a mallet to that and start cracking ice off of it. So we'll see what this winter brings for weather challenges for us. Of course, I've got 2 docks on a single internet or cellular based connection. So this is a video. I got a little pixelated on me. I couldn't get one with a perfectly clear video this morning, but gives you a little different view. That has normally been a smoother video picture or video feed. And then that's one of our Yapoa site docks. You can see there down on the left. I'm really evaluating the wind impact between the two. The lower dock has the, what's that? Oh, sorry, I thought I heard something. The lower dock down on the bottom left is just a more protected position. The upper one, there aren't the HVAC units and the little bit of a lip of the building edge, the railings and the other construction items that really do have an impact on the wind. So I think I'm going to leave one up and one down for the time being as we decide kind of where the best placement is. What I'm generally seeing is that the winds are about twice as strong, just 12 feet higher on top of that elevator building than they are down below. So we'll see if that has an impact on our ability to deploy or not. The line of sight and the ability to be above the construction, the buildings, and the HVAC units does add a huge value, as long as the wind doesn't prevent us from being able to take off or land. This is our West Eugene site. So these actually got mounted yesterday at about 4:30. We were bolting them down. This business is they actually fabricated the platforms. They're running the electrical and the network all at no cost. The business owner is a huge supporter of the police department, has been a big donor to the Eugene Police Foundation. And when we went to him through a known mutual connection, he jumped all over being a part of this and is just genuinely excited. I started to talk about budget and he just waved his hand. He's like, "No, we got it taken care of." They are a milling business, so this is what they do. But still very, very generous and awesome to work with, just bending over backwards. We've got 2 docks on that location. The 2 platforms, of course, for the docks, and then the 3rd platform in the middle is the additional emergency landing point. So if the drone isn't able to get into the dock for whatever reason, either a catastrophic failure with the lid, a power issue, even though there is a battery backup, or weather prevents it from being able to safely land, then it'll go drop itself down onto that flat platform. And then we'll have to go back and reset it. But it gives that option. And with that roof design, there really wasn't a way to just do it on the roof naturally. This is our remote ops control room here at the police department. I just kept adding screens because there's a lot of stuff to look at. And what I found is that as we added things to look at, it was easy for things to sort of get lost. You get to looking at one tab and then you forget to check back and look at the others. And so this is kind of where we've settled. The top left, and I'm going to go through I've got bigger blowups of each of these, but essentially the top left is ADSB. The center 2 screens are mirrored, and that's so that the pilot can have a bigger screen to look at, as well as when people are just stopping by to look, they're not hovering over the shoulder of my remote pilot who's sitting there. The top right is a program called Live 911. Bottom left is going to be our CAD. The bottom center, of course, is the main one that we're operating off of primarily. And then the bottom right is the everything else screen. So Google Maps, email, our flight logs, evidence, video uploading, all of the stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be front and center all the time, but more of an active working screen. So we've gone back and forth on ADSB sites. Flight Radar 24 was where we started, and then we've mostly moved over ADSB Exchange. It's nice because this one allows us to filter by altitude. I can filter out everything above 5,000 or 7,000 feet, the things that clearly are not going to impact us in any way. And then it shows me that if I see something over the city flying, it's something that's worth me taking a look at. And so I've been happy with that one. The other thing that we get here is, so this is drone sensor remote. So I'm getting ahead of myself. This is what we're trying to use for the remote operations. This is in beta still, as it's a new product in the dock, and the docks are still very new. So we're working out some kinks with it. I'm hoping that we'll get to a level of functionality where it's just plenty reliable. We just have some connection and streaming issues and things from time to time. Within this, you'll notice on the right side, so the far right yellow line inboard of just to the left of that, there's a little airplane. They have now integrated ADSB into the ops hub. And so that need for the ADSB individual screen is far lower with this platform now, which is a nice thing to have. It also means that when I'm looking at my map, I actually am seeing the aircraft on the map that I'm actively using for my call response as well, which is a great fusion of those data feeds. Live 911 is really is kind of the secret sauce to all of this. This is a platform that allows us to listen in, as it says, to live 911 calls. So this pulls rapid SOS, which is the 911 or the GPS data that your phone provides to 911 when you call 911 from your cell phone. It's giving 911 your GPS location. So it's feeding that information into this interface that also automatically starts playing the 911 call in real time. I can also geofence the area that I want to hear 911 calls from, so I can reduce that to just the areas that we're able to respond to. So I'm not listening to all of Lane County. Our Central Lane Communication Center takes 911 calls for nearly all of Lane County, and so I certainly don't want to be hearing all of that. And then it plots a GPS point on the map and lists an address for what the address is, where that phone's at, and the phone number. So here in Oregon, we have complicated Oregon revised statutes for police use of drones. We're required to have exigency and probable cause for a crime. And so this is really twofold. We're not just looking at call details to determine whether or not we have PC. We actually are listening to the person saying what's going on, what's happening. And so when we're actively, as a police officer, when we're hearing it straight from them, it reduces any sort of question about whether or not we truly had that level to be able to launch a drone for that call. It also allows us to cut out that delay between the time where you have an uncooperative caller for whatever reason, and it takes them some time to get the details that they need to get them entered into the computer, to get it sent to dispatch, for dispatch to then dispatch an officer. And you really have, for us, because we're so busy, we really have a pretty significant number of calls that are kind of that mid-level of urgency. There's some urgency, but it's not high enough priority to really get an immediate response. And so we're able to see those early, get to them quickly, and then help filter and provide more information on whether or not we need a patrol response, or whether or not we really no, this actually is worse than, or it's evolving more quickly, and we definitely need to get patrol there. I actually had a call where we were providing overwatch for officers who were out with someone. I don't remember what the crime was on that one. They were sending one more officer, they requested one more officer, and then they got in a fight. And we could see that they were both fighting with the person. Well, dispatch was trying to get them on the air, and they weren't able to get on the radio because they're literally on the ground rolling around with this person. And we got on the radio and made that request for code 3 cover on their behalf. And then we're able to provide an updated detailed location to exactly where the officers were so that their cover could get there quickly. So we've just, even in the limited shifts that we've been able to run, as we're only allowed to do this on overtime right now due to staffing, we've had quite a few pretty good wins when it comes to showing the value to having this kind of a program. The next screen is just our CAD. So we're able to look at calls, add call notes and notations. Look at history and stuff. And then this is a video of a DFR call that we had. So we got a call report of probably about 9 o'clock in the morning, one of our banks downtown, a subject armed with a gun who was pointing it at the bank security officer out front. I was setting up at our offsite location with the actual drone. My pilot was getting set up in the office at our remote ops room. He actually wasn't quite set up yet when I heard the call come out. So I just launched manually and got on scene. There's no audio to this. I just shortened down the video and figured I'd talk it through. So I spot him there. You can see him handling something, but you can't quite tell what it is. It's like, yeah, I think that's probably a gun. Meanwhile, I'm airing to officers, and then he leans forward, and you can see clearly the outline of a revolver there. So I'm giving info to officers. He's on the south side of the bank on a bench, bright blue shirt, black pants. It definitely has what appears to be a long barrel revolver. He's not actively holding it, but he is manipulating it. And then officers show up, and they're armed with that information to be able to interact with him safely from a safe distance. And then he's taken into custody without incident. He gets a little agitated right before they take him into custody, but he's also showing actions that he's cooperative as well. He's not happy about it, but he's following directions. Really good resolution to that call. And then an hour and a half later, at a bank robbery, suspects armed with a knife, teller's injured. These are the call details that we know. Teller has been injured. Robber's armed with a knife. Again, we were right there, launched very quickly. Before I start the video, it's the gentleman in the white shirt with the black vest and the black beanie cap, big white beard. So we actually watched him walk out of the front doors at Wells Fargo there. And then that's where the video recording starts, is as he's walking out front. Kind of an unusual circumstance. I honestly would have liked to have done some follow-up with him. He clearly isn't trying very hard to get away, so it made it pretty easy to follow him and walk officers into him. But about this time, one of our downtown units arrived, so he's able to provide some info. We're providing active intelligence to our officers on the ground. This fellow walks over and sits on the bench next to another older guy with long hair and a black jacket. And while to us, you can clearly tell which one's which, the officer's showing up, it's close enough of a description that they rolled in and they're like, wait a minute, which old guy is it sitting on the bench there? I'm able to really easily, quickly give him a description. You can see here, I slow the video down here. He actually pulls the knife out and he throws it. So I aired to officers, he just threw something and they're like, yep, that was the knife. And then they come in and take him into custody. So they get the bystanders out of the way, take him into custody, and had a peaceful resolution to that bank robbery. So it's been a fascinating project. There really isn't a clear pathway for how to do this. The regulatory components are complicated with the FAA, the visual line of sight, the staffing requirements. The docs were released, but the software, even the manufacturer's software for our purpose, is still in a non-official final release version. So we're troubleshooting bugs that nobody really knows what the solution is. That internet connectivity, there's a lot of data and there's a lot of links between us and them. So utilizing DroneSense, it's one of our ways to air gap. DJI is a Chinese company and there's been a lot of negativity around the Chinese, the potential for data to be stolen and security issues. So we're doing things to air gap and separate our systems from that. One of those is using a third-party flight control software. But what that means is that you have a connection from the drone to the box to DroneSense, our computer to DroneSense, and then those two connecting in the middle. There's a lot of areas And then through that, some sort of a network connection on a rooftop that generally doesn't have network. So we've been playing a lot with different cradle points, 4G, LTE connections to 5G connections, Starlink. And it feels like we get one thing that works well for a month and then it peters out and starts having issues. So then we're constantly searching for a new solution. Our West Eugene site, they're hardwiring to their gigabit fiber line for us. So I'm hoping that that problem will be resolved. And I've got a pathway towards hardwired internet onto the downtown Yopoa site as well. I'll be working on here soon. So really, I wish I could put a number on how many hours I've dealt with network connection issues. The FAA regulations, of course, the FAA is oftentimes a little complicated to work with a lot of different layers. So trying to get ourselves to that beyond visual line of sight so we can reduce the staffing workload required to be able to provide more shifts. Fortunately, the first responder BV loss came at a good time, and I feel like we're at the cusp of being at a point where I can rely on the docks to function, and instead of having to have a Part 107 pilot with a drone there as either the primary drone that's flying or as a backup to the docks, I feel like we're at a place where I can cut that out, and my rooftop person really can just be a dedicated visual observer. Which will allow me to lean on more people within the department to do that side so that my drone pilots can actually do the remote operations side. And then Oregon revised statutes are really cumbersome and complicated. There is some push, and we're working towards hopefully making some changes in the 2025 long session. I know ODA has some interest in making some adjustments. The sheriff's departments do for the search and rescue. We do for the regular patrol response. Not looking to blow things wide open, but also now that we've had some time to see how drones are used and the value that they add, rewriting some language in a way that allows us to be more transparent, to be able to fly more in more situations where it can benefit us and the community. That language generally that we're hoping for is something along the lines of flying in support of any lawful police activity, so that if in a court system or after the fact we're deemed that we shouldn't have been somewhere, shouldn't have been doing something, that they'd have the ability to throw the drone work out or the drone evidence or whatever it might be, in response to any police call for service. So if you call us, we can utilize the tools that we have to respond in the best way in response to any public safety emergency, so that it opens the door for us to be able to fly more easily for a disaster response, even a lower level ice storms, infrastructure damage, all the way up to more quickly, not waiting for a governor's order for an earthquake, traffic crashes, medical emergencies, and things where we can be supporting the fire department more readily. And then changing it from operating to responding with. The future of DFR, I believe, is going to be fixed wing VTOL platforms where you can launch and land easily, but transition to forward flight so that you can get a longer flight time. The 30-minute flight time of the quads is just limiting, and having to have multiple sites across the city to be able to cover the whole city creates a lot of logistics issues, where if we can have a single site with a more significant aircraft, we wind up being better situated for efficiency and hopefully being in a position where we can have an aircraft loitering in the air ready to respond rather than having to actually launch it and send it to a scene. And then of course staffing is the perpetual problem right now, but I'm hopeful that we'll get there. We're like I said, we're at minimum staffing most every day. So my team of 5 officers plus myself are trying to cover 2 days a week on overtime alone. And as the months wear on, their interest in working overtime, especially in August with vacations and things, is been a little bit challenging. So we're not putting as many shifts in as I would like, but we're getting ready to run a process for some more pilots for the program. So that'll be super helpful. And then really, where are we going? So pushing towards the full BV loss, partnering with other agencies. I can see a future where, kind of like call centers, everybody had their own 911 call center and they slowly isolated into more regional, larger centers. I can absolutely see a future where you have regional DFR response, essentially. I've been lucky to build some really great partnerships in the industry around the state. Bend PD has been super creative and at the forefront of all of this as well. And so their program manager and I have talked about doing some testing to where we actually, if we have somebody sitting at our desk doing DFR, that we could actually be monitoring theirs for high priority calls and then responding from our control room, utilizing their remote drone in their city and then vice versa. So looking at creative ways to see how we can increase our coverage and be more efficient and provide even more hours of service across the board. And then of course, like I said, the fixed wing VTOL, looking for the most efficient deployment strategies. And with the BV loss, is that going to take some sort of radar system? Is it going to require counter UAS or UAS detection? Is there a pathway for public safety to be able to run without a detection system, but maybe at a lower altitude even, or in some sort of a public safety zone, so that there's a little more focus put on the crewed pilots in the area to avoid the area, as opposed to us necessarily having to, in order to help grease the skids for making this more attainable. That really is the biggest barrier right now to this, is the visual line of sight requirement for multiple staffing, and then limiting the response area due to that. So that's all I have. I think I already went over time and we started early.
Thank you, Kyle. It
Open
looks
to
like
any questions.
Kenji.
Yep.
Oh, it looks like Kenji has a question. Thank you, Kyle.
Not a question. And this is exactly what I spoke about in terms of the UAS insurance funding. What it is to purchase that digital equipment that would give airspace awareness for Kyle, which then he'd be able to eliminate the need for a VO to deconflict. So that's really how this all ties together in terms of the airspace awareness, the sensors that we'd start deploying as an agency that could really benefit that DFR program. Because one of the things that's going to happen as Part 108 comes out, which is a new part, it's like Part 107, but Part 108 for BV loss. One of the things that is likely going to come out in the NPRM is universal conspicuity for everyone. So that means for lighter than air aircraft, crewed aircraft that don't have electrical systems, and all sorts of different non-cooperative aircraft that are currently non-cooperative. So what that means is if we can detect it and feed that data to Kyle's system, then they can tactically deconflict. So I think that's where there's a lot of overlap. And it's also, DFR is a great community sort of engagement practice, because when you go out there, you see what you saw that Kyle presented. It's a really compelling story where the public is like, oh, you actually caught that person. Oh, that's how it works really well. So it ties very well together in terms of the entire narrative of deploying more drones as well as advanced air mobility. So that's sort of, I just wanted to give folks a little bit of insight into that. And then also, Kyle, I'd love for you to cover sort of that community engagement pieces, because we know the community in Eugene was probably very concerned about privacy, and there was probably a number of issues that came up. So if you want to just give a little bit of background on how you're able to overcome that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, there was less pushback than I thought there would be. So we initially brought this to police commission. Our police commission has 2 city council members on it. One was at the time was a former ACLU attorney. Fortunately, at that time, it was a pretty supportive pro-police commission, which also helped grease the skids a little bit to make it more attainable. And then from there, we just talked about it every chance we could. We did numerous media blasts. We talked about the pilot program when we initially went. We published everything we could. Even to this day, if we're on a major call and the drone team's called out as part of it, that gets listed in the media release. I've done numerous media things. We participate in National Night Out. We go to recruiting events. One of my drone pilots is on the recruiting team, and so he'll take equipment with him. And every time you can have that stuff out in front of the community, the easier it gets. And honestly, every time that I'm out flying and somebody comes by and asks and wants to see, it's an opportunity that I lean on the whole team. Like, take the minute, unless you're fully engaged, take the minute and show them, because people think it's cool, and it really dispels the concern. The reality that I saw was the timing. I just can't say enough times how magical the timing was in lining up a lot of really complicated things. But the year that we started rolling into this was the first year that you could buy a DJI Mavic at Costco. And when people associated what we were doing with that, and it was literally that same drone was the first one that we bought, that really changed the perception and allowed people to wrap their heads around it. So I actually have had, in 6 years, we had 344 deployments last year. So we're ramping up each year, but I have had 0 official complaints from the public. I've had 2, something has been spying on me. I think it's saucers and aliens and airplanes complaints that I got to field because I'm the drone guy. But we're absolutely clearly not us. Honestly, I find it pretty remarkable that we haven't, but we also have not been shy about talking about it and being super transparent to the community. And then for DFR, we haven't done a community push yet. We're waiting for getting this equipment up and making sure that it's functional first. And then we'll be starting to roll out news stories and things about different captures. In fact, those 2 that you have, we also caught 3 burglars coming out of a burglary in just a couple of weeks ago. So that's going to be another really good one. So we're going to start rolling out those stories and making a push. But the reality is that while it seems really new and different, it really isn't. In fact, I went to look at, like, do we need a policy for DFR? And I looked around at what other agencies were doing. There really weren't any DFR specific policies. Some policies called out DFR, but the reality is that we're deploying drones virtually no different, except that we're just ready to go instead of having to drive there first. And so the difference in what we're doing, really, it just isn't that much different, even though it is wildly different at the same time. So it's a unique place to be. But in the last 8 months of campaigning that I've done, the chief is talking about it at every community meeting that he can get to. I keep hearing from other people that he's at this community function or that community function and talking about what we're doing. So the chief is very, very good at engaging the community and being able to talk about the value and benefit to the community. And so I really expect that it's gonna kick off very smoothly. The business owners that we're working with are wildly excited about it. Their staff are like, everybody walks up just kind of giddy about how cool it is. And so it's helpful that it is a cool, unique technology and certainly much less scary than it was 7 or 8 years ago.
It's Sergeant Williams. So it's Catherine. I'm at the Eugene Airport. So I would agree. I've been surprised and pleasantly surprised that there really has not been kind of that immediate knee-jerk reaction that we sometimes do get in our community. And I think a lot of that has to do with you've been able to really tell some great success stories and had some good media coverage on that. So that's been great. So I have a couple of questions for you. So one, and you kind of covered some of this already, but I'm kind of wondering if you've been able to gauge so far, is it that you're able to capture more suspects or capture them more quickly, or just operational efficiency as a whole, or all of the above? Is that what you're seeing from the outcome from this project?
Yeah, definitely. Let me pull up some stats here. Of course, I got kicked out of the other computer. I hate to talk about these stats too much because they're pretty skewed, because there's a lot of sort of training flights and connection issues that we haven't been as successful as we will be once we're trained up and things are smooth and working properly. But we are 103 DFR related deployments. This log started May 1st is when we transitioned to this, once we had worked out at least the first round of kinks. We were first on scene 121 of those deployments. So was that about 60% of the time we're arriving first. 8 of those are flight directly impacted an arrest or led towards an arrest. Either that was a capture or providing intelligence that led towards an officer making probable cause. 38 of 200, and actually 12 of those were training. So we're actually at 185, 190 flights. 38 of those, so almost 25%, 20%, we cleared without patrol having to respond. One of those, our DFR pilot actually called the person and took the report because it was kind of a slow day, and they had the ability to do that. 24 of those, we called the complainant directly and were able to interface with the complainant and talk about what we were doing. 5 of them were fire department assists. The complicated thing about drones is that there's a lot of value add depending on, in a lot of different potential ways. The captures are always the sexy, like that's an easy check. And we've had 9 direct captures where we specifically caught the person. At the same time, there's a lot of benefit in being able to search an empty field and not spend 20 minutes with a canine walking the perimeter of a field or whatnot. And so in both of my logs, I asked for my pilots to give a realistic perspective on, did this drone flight add a material benefit to the resolution of that incident? And it's totally subjective. We all have probably different perspectives of what that means, but trying to capture, at least anecdotally, how much of a value is there? And for the DFR flights, of the 192, 89 of them, my guys said that their flight added a material benefit to the resolution of that call in some way. And our patrol deployment, I think the number is even higher. But again, we're still sort of figuring out the pathway for DFR. So we've had 14 patrol captures this year, 156 of 280. They deemed there was a material benefit to the call. 30 interior missions where we're flying interior flights, and 14 captures. 5 fire department assists.
Yeah, those are some great stats. Very good. So are there times that you don't have the drone team coverage, and do your officers in the field know that, or do they maybe call for drone assistance and are disappointed when they don't have it available?
Yeah, and we're getting to, unfortunately, I've built us into a place where I'm getting phone calls in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah.
Because we don't have 24/7 coverage. I love seeing the phone ring, and I hate seeing the phone ring all at the same time at 2 a.m. Right now, so I've got five officers, 5 pilots that are all working patrol. We all lean towards the Sunday through Wednesday days because we're all more senior folks and don't want to work the weekends. But I do have coverage from 6 a.m. If everybody's working that day, I have coverage from 6 a.m. Until 9 p.m. and then from 10 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next day. So I've got pretty closed coverage Sunday through Wednesday. I only have one guy working Wednesday through Saturday, and he works our evening swing, so 4 p.m. till 2 a.m. And I just talked to his sergeant maybe 2 weeks ago, and he told me that he wishes he could just make him a full-time drone operator because the value is so great, and he winds up going from call to call just flying active patrol incidents. That he'd rather that he wasn't at risk of being caught up in a report or an investigation because he's found it to be so valuable. And that to me is where, like, I pushed and pushed and pushed, and I wiggled this thing in front of everybody for the first few years because people didn't, it was hard to get people to see that this wasn't just a toy, that there was value there. And the point where I get to start having these conversations, I talked to a street crime sergeant about a month ago, and he said, you know, Kyle, I was super skeptical. I was one of those guys that you'd walk in the room and I'd roll my eyes. And he's like, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. It's game changing. I don't know how we did our jobs before without it. I'm a believer, and I'm sold on what you've been able to accomplish here. So the internal adoption has turned a corner, and thankfully, because I'm burnout on selling it internally, it's been a long uphill battle in some ways, and pretty smooth in other ways. It's a complicated mix.
That's awesome. I think Jim has a question for you.
Kyle, I want to let you know that Kenji and the staff have really done a remarkable job of educating our board of the goodness of drones. And I'd like to know, maybe you don't have an answer now, but the door's open to you, are there ways that our agency can provide you more assistance? If you could wave a magic wand and needed help, what would that be that we may have the potential for being able to assist you?
Well, I'll tell you, I was campaigning to Kenji yesterday as I sent him pictures of those docks on top of Mid Valley out in West Eugene. If there is a way to collaborate on creating this BV loss and Eugene being able to be strategically involved in that to help get us to that BV loss, that would be absolutely game changing and a massive help. If I can cut one person out of the loop of what we need, it means that when I have a patrol call in the middle of the night and I don't actually have a drone pilot, I can wander to my desk, pop open my computer and have a drone in the air in seconds rather than having to wait 40 minutes for somebody to drive in. So just the emergency response is a massive value add. And then being able to add shifts in that, I mean, staffing is a wildly complicated piece. So as soon as he and I talked maybe a month ago, and when I heard about that, my gears started turning. But I certainly have been having lots of thoughts, and I don't have a good answer other than that one being the thing that really is big for me right now. I don't have a good answer for you, but I certainly am looking forward to being able to work with you guys and Kenji more and seeing what we can do to help not just me, but police departments around the state, police and fire, public safety agencies around the state to adopt the technology and make it simpler for them to be able to bring this value to their communities.
Very good. Any other questions for Sergeant Williams?
I just want to mention, Kyle, that was excellent presentation. Thank you for that information. And I want to give a shout out to Kenji, our director, and Jeff Pritcher for connecting me with you so we can have your presentation shared and all this great, amazing information. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. Really great presentation. I think we all learned a lot. So thank you very much for taking the time today.
Perfect.
And
You
I
bet.
do have
Let
a
me know if there's
question,
anything I can ever do to help. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have a link or any website with your information that we could share in the chat maybe, or?
That would have been a good thing. No, but I'll plug my email and my phone number into the chat, and I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, I think that we have gone through all of our agenda other than the tour of the Klamath Falls Airport. Unless I'm missing anything, I'll do a check-in with Holly to make sure I get all the marks.
It looks like we are good to go. Kyle was our last presenter. And yes, it does look like the tour is on the agenda as the next item.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks everybody for joining today for the meeting, everybody online, and those of us in person will get to enjoy the airport tour this afternoon. And then we will see everybody again September 5th for our board work session, which will be virtual. Great afternoon, everybody. Yeah.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Please adjourn the meeting. So this meeting has been adjourned and I am ending the meeting recording. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.